A very warm welcome to all the esteemed speakers and panelists to the Smart Water Distribution Session in partnership with Everything About Water. Government of India has launched the Jal Jeevan mission to provide clean drinking water to nearly 200 million households, which requires a huge water distribution system in the entire country across every village and household, which requires pumping, chlorination of water and filtration. A national water policy for the 21st century has to recognize water as a national resource. It is a need of the hour to have an appropriate water policy that addresses the future challenges, and the entire supply is automated and monitored. The partnership between local communities and the concerned state governments is going to play a big role in the infrastructure and social transformation. Collaboration between electric and water distribution utilities would lead to better efficiency, cost reduction, and ultimately customer delight. With this, I would quickly run through the agenda for the day. Yes, for the inaugural address, we have Mr. Ramnath Sonavne, Secretary, Maharashtra Water Sources Regulatory Authority. Welcome, sir. For session 1, we have challenges and issues providing drinking water to 200 million households. The session will be chaired by Mr. Pradeep Singh, Director from Jal Jeevan Mission, Ministry of Jal Shakti. Moderator would be Mr. Ajay Pradhan, Chairman C2S2, and speakers for this session would be Mr. Bhupesh Chaudhury, President JMC Projects, Mr. Jayesh Suratwal, the lead digital initiatives Forbes Marshall Private Limited, Mr. Arkul Shenoy, who is the segment head for wastewater from Schneider Electric, and Mr. Amit Rajput, the business development manager from Nanostone Water. For session 2, we have a National Water Policy and Action Plan for India, which will be a panel discussion. And the chair and moderator for this session would be Mr. Saurav Patnaik, MD for Swachh Environment Private Limited. Speakers for this session would be Mr. Venkatesh Jayaraman, the CEO for BioX Green Technologies Private Limited, Mr. Nitin Basi, Program Lead from CEEW, and Ms. Abha Sargaonkar, the Senior Principal Scientist from National Environmental Engineering Research Institute. Session 3 will be the integration of water and electricity. There'll be an introduction by Mr. Reggie Kumar Pillai, who is the president of ISGF, and the panelists would be Mr. Sanjoy Roy, who is the CEO of OCW, Nagpur, Mr. Vinit Sikka, Senior Executive Vice President from BRPL, and Mr. Sumit Gupta, a co-founder of Asset Plus Consulting. Here is a quick look of all our esteemed panelists for today. I would now request Mr. Ramnath Sonavne for the inaugural address. Mr. Ramnath Sonavne holds a PhD in Administrative Communication Strategies in Local Self-Government and carries more than 30 years of experience in urban infrastructure management. Over to you, sir, and welcome.
Good morning. And first of all, I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to interact with this elite group. Water is my favorite domain, and you see, since working as city manager, as municipal commissioner, I think I have gained some experience to throw some light on the issues that we have been facing in water supply. As you know, you see, when we look at the national scenario, the raw water which is required is available in most of the states. Only some states like Rajasthan, part of Maharashtra, part of Karnataka, and some southern states, water availability is hardly an issue in India. And the distribution responsibility rests with the rural local bodies and urban local bodies. My experience tells me that in most of the cities in Maharashtra as well as in India, water availability is one issue, and second, the distribution of available water is another issue. So first of all, let me talk about the water requirement of an individual. How much water does an individual require? You see, as
Mr.
per the
Somnath,
norms.
can you adjust your camera a bit? We can't see you, sir.
Oh, am I visible and audible?
Sir, you are very much
Hello?
audible. Now we can see you, sir. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So, while dwelling on the issue of water distribution, all we need to understand is, you see, the availability of water, water requirement of an individual, water requirement of the individual family, water requirement of a particular city, and water requirement of the region as a whole. So water requirement of an individual is very limited. There are norms. I do not want to go into it, but for rural area, we provide there about 70 LPCD, liters per day per capita. And in urban area, the norms are around 140 LPCD. In most of the cities, I have realized that water availability is there, but again, that water availability is only for a period of 1 year. The water stored in our rivers and reservoirs is only limited for 1 year, and that too, water is collected in monsoon season and it is distributed in rest of 12 months. So water availability is one issue. And second issue, even if water is available, the distribution networks are very poor. In most of our urban areas, the distribution networks are quite old. You see the NRW, that non-revenue water, varies from 40 to 55%. It is admitted fact. You can check with records. Non-revenue water is to the tune of 40 to 55%. And the biggest challenge for rural local bodies or urban local bodies is to ensure proper distribution of water, that every individual should get the assured quantity of water which is required on day-to-day basis. If we actually quantify the real requirement, you see, even if we supply 70 or 140 liters per day, actual requirement for drinking purpose, that is potable purpose, or for cooking purpose, is hardly less than 5 liters per day per person. Whereas we are supplying treated water to the tune of 70 liters in rural areas and 140 liters in urban areas. And we are supplying it through a pipe system. But that network, distribution network, is so old that in some of the cities, that distribution problem creates a lot of unrest among the citizens. Some areas get adequate water, some areas do not get adequate water. And as a result, the city administrators have to face a lot of challenges. Now there are various latest technology available. Some cities are trying to achieve 24/7 water distribution system with the latest technologies like SCADA. Take example of Malkapur in Maharashtra, where 24/7 water supply scheme has been successfully implemented. In a city like Nagpur, it is being implemented. In city like Pune also, which is a bigger city, quite large one, 24/7 water supply scheme is being implemented. But again, when I actually look at the performance of these cities, I understand that due to two important factors, old network and dependency on energy sector, dependency on electricity, the distribution programs, distribution schedules cannot be actually scrupulously followed. And even when we talk about distribution networks, the distribution networks are inadequate. Say, for example, in 2000, some area of the city had a population of 40,000, and the distribution network is designed for a population of 40,000. But over a period of last 20 years, if the population has gone up by say 70,000 or 80,000, then our network does not actually fulfill the demands. It on the other hand, creates pressure on the existing network. You cannot draw more water from the inadequate distribution networks. So 24/7 is one experiment which is being actually implemented in some cities. But forget about 24/7. In case of intermittent water supply also, we realize that equitable distribution is not there. All people, all areas do not get equal quantity of water. And second is the quality of water that is supplied also creates a problem. So whenever we talk about water distribution networks, we have to adopt the latest technologies which are available. We have to be abreast of time, and unless we adopt the latest technologies, we will not be able to achieve our goal of providing tap water to each household in the country. The goal or the objective under that Jal Jeevan mission, that each household should have a tap, is quite ambitious, it's quite achievable. But again, I have the apprehension that it might happen that households will have taps, but if there is no water, then there will be a lot of complaints, lot of unrest. Even if there is water and if there is no proper support of electricity system, then also they will have problems. Topography of the city is such that we require electricity to pump water in adequate quantity, and the systems are quite inadequate actually to cater to the needs of all citizens. The only point that I intend to make here is that water availability is no doubt an issue, but water distribution is a serious issue which has to be tackled by the local administration in collaboration with the citizens. And unfortunately, what I see, there is tremendous gap in thinking process of the citizens, of the policymakers, basically the politicians, and the implementers, basically the bureaucrats. So unless all these three segments, the policymakers, the implementers, and the beneficiary citizens, beneficiary public, they decide how to design the and implement the systems in effective way with the problems, water scarcity problems in the country will not be solved in spite of the mission mode which is being adopted by the central government. That is what all that I have to say. There are a lot of experiences which I can share, but the only thing which I would like to highlight is, you see, there has to be initiatives to ensure the resilience and sustainability. Resilience, by resilience, all we mean is that, you see, during stress period also, our water supply system should sustain during the period of scarcity. And as I said earlier, water availability in the cities is limited for a period of 1 year. And I have not yet come across a city which has created additional storage capacity of 1 year by artificial tanks or lakes, wherein water which flows to the sea during monsoon season can be arrested, can be stored. So that is one issue wherein I would like to highlight that local bodies need to actually start thinking in this direction, that water, you cannot guarantee that it will be available every year. So at least 1 year storage capacity has to be created by local bodies. And second, after having created that capacity, you have to ensure that 100% city is covered. All the citizens have equal access to pure and clean drinking water, and the systems are run, because you see, you installing a system, installing a plant, filtration plant, or installing a distribution network is not that much difficult as its maintenance and repairs. So maintenance and repairs will be a bigger challenge in a long run for the administrators. And most important, you say, unless the citizens cooperate, unless the politicians, they are willing, actually, again, this again leads me to another issue of water pricing. So how much do the citizens pay? And you see, this is the vicious circle. Citizens do not pay water charges regularly, like they pay for their cable connection or their mobile phone or their other utilities like gas. In case of water charges and electricity charges, the arrears are quite huge. Since the citizens do not pay water charges, the city administration faces lot of problem in managing its resources. If at all, even if city administration has the will and ability to adopt new technologies, due to paucity of funds, the city administrators will not be able to actually implement their plans, implement their schemes properly. So again, water pricing is also an issue which needs to be debated. And if I have to say that, or if I am allowed to say that, as on today, average Indian family pays hardly 200 rupees per year for the water supplied for a period of 365 days, which caters the need of a family for entire year. And 200 rupees would mean hardly 15 bottles of your Coke, 15 cans of your Coke, or 2 packs of your cigar. I do not want to actually exaggerate the things too much so that people will take it otherwise. But the point here again I would like to make is, the citizens, without citizen participation, without the politicians' will to actually charge as per actual cost and not water as a subsidized service. In all our urban local bodies, you must have realized water is a subsidized service. Your cable connection is not subsidized, people pay. Your gas connection is not subsidized, people pay. So water should also be treated as a non-subsidized service, wherein actual cost of water availability, making water available, storage of water, treatment of water, distribution of water has to be calculated, and water pricing policy has to be actually framed at national level, so that all the citizens, those who claim that water is their basic right, no doubt it is the basic right, but those who claim that water is the basic right, then it becomes their fundamental duty to ensure that they actually pay the cost which is required to ensure adequate, equitable, proper distribution of water. Thank you very much. This is what all I have to say. If at all anyone has any query regarding or any objection regarding whatever I have said, I am open for discussion and debate.
Thank you very much, sir, for the inaugural address. And we look forward to have you in our other future smart water events, sir. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
We'll be now starting with our session 1, which is the challenges and issues in providing drinking water to 200 million households. And the chair for this session is Mr. Pradeep Singh, the Director for Jal Jeevan Mission from the Ministry of Jal Shakti. Mr. Pradeep Singh is an alumni of IIT Mumbai with BTech and MTech in Mechanical Engineering with specialization in computer-aided design and automation. Welcome, sir. The moderator for this session is Mr. Ajay Pradhan, the chairman for C2S2. Mr. Ajay Pradhan is a civil engineer with doctorate degree in water resource engineering with experience of over 27 years in planning, designing, and implementation of number of projects funded by national and international funding agencies. Welcome, Mr. Pradhan.
Thank you, Asima.
The panelist for this session is Mr. Bhupesh Chaudhury, who is the president of JMC Projects. Mr. Bhupesh Chaudhury is working as the president, International BU at JMC Projects India Limited. Mr. Chaudhury has done his Bachelor of Engineering in Industrial and Production and also a postgraduate diploma in Business Administration. Welcome, Mr. Chaudhury. The next speaker for the session is Mr. Jayesh Suratwala from Forbes Marshall. Associated with the organization for more than 21 years, Mr. Jayesh started his career in sales and marketing, promoting signal conditioners, field devices, controllers, unit-level control systems. Welcome, sir. Mr. Arkur Shenoy from Schneider Electric is the segment head water and wastewater management. He addresses key challenges that concern water and wastewater for Greater India Zone and ensures service sales and business development in the WWW segment. Welcome, Mr. Arkur Shenoy. We have Mr. Amit Rajput, who is the business development manager at Nanostone Water. Mr. Amit joined Nanostone Water in 2021 as a business development manager, India and Southeast Asia, with the responsibility to set up and implement the sales strategy for municipal and desalination segments and grow the business in India and Southeast Asia region. Welcome, Mr. Amit.
Thank you.
We'll now be starting with our session 1, and I would request our chair to kindly proceed with the session.
So thank you so much, Asma, and thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm really happy to see the very eminent panel and very important topic that we are going to discuss in next 45 minutes. Friends, we all know that Honorable Prime Minister on 15th August 2019 launched Jal Jeevan Mission, where we committed to provide tap water connection to all rural households. So that is almost 200 million families. And in almost a journey of 2.5 years, we have already provided more than 9 crore families with tap water supply, 90 million families with tap water supply. And Government of India has provided committed funds. Intention is very serious, very high priority program. Almost $50 billion we are investing in water supply and distribution networks. So, but the key feature is not only creation of infrastructure. We are basically going ahead and we want to develop all our Gram Panchayats and Pani Samitis as utilities. So the key word is utility, and we have extreme huge focus on service delivery. That जैसे अभी सोनवानी जी बात कर रहे थे secretary, that tap network तो बन जाएगा, पानी आएगा कि नहीं आएगा, and that is the key worry that everybody has in mind. पानी रोज आए, समय से आए और गुणवत्ता का आए. Every day we get quality, quantity, and regularity assured. So how do we do it? So under Jal Jeevan Mission, I will quickly highlight few things, and I would love to listen and learn more from during the session. That there is a focus on use of technology, monitoring of water supply through IoT-based devices, grievance redressal system, regular monitoring of water quality through lab network, strengthening of lab network. So I will not speak much. I will request all of you to go to our Jal Jeevan Mission dashboard, which is fairly detailed, and it is very every day how many connections we are providing, that is reflected. It is segregated up to the village level. You can actually pinpoint to the village and find out who is the team, utility team that will be managing water supply. We have provided information to that level. We are providing a lot of capacity building training and technological intervention in terms of installing of sensors and making available digital field kits for testing water quality. Huge focus on grey water treatment through convergence of funds and reutilization of the water, because we know that we have a lot of challenges. So that is the scale and speed that we are talking about. So that's all I would say at the beginning. And I would request moderator to start the session and take it forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Good morning. And you set the tone actually for the session. I think rightly said that Jal Jeevan Mission has a fantastic mandate in a nationwide and such a large mission mode projects. I think it's a fantastic achievement, and whatever you have achieved so far. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I think we have 4 panelists. I think they're all learned panelists. I think I can see 2 of my friends are very much there, and my job is to ensure that we have 45 minutes. I request all my friends, speakers, to limit their talk to 10 minutes, and I'm very hard on that. I don't mind, intervening in between and stop you at this thing. But I think you have to make in 10 minutes a impact which will ensure that the sessions and the participants should take away some of your intervention, your inputs, your way forwards. I think that's what we'll do. We'll have 5 minutes towards the end, some question answers, and maybe Singh Saab will also, summarize towards the end. So I request Bhupesh Chaudhury Garu, my dear friend, President of JMC Project International. I think they are in the right way. They're the upcoming water company, you can say. I request Bhupesh Garu, please start with your intervention and your presentation. Floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Ajay. It's wonderful to interact with the forum and with the learned the team members on the Smart Grid forum. Once again, good morning to all of you. So I actually run the JMC Projects India Limited, which has got infrastructure business into the water segment and buildings and factories and the urban infrastructure. So all these three segments we run across in India in domestic business as well as in the international market across various parts of the world. So taking to this particular discussion with the team and the expectations from my side and to the industry needs, I had made a brief presentation, possibly that would enable to set the context as well as take you through what are the challenges and issues that makes the smart water distribution for 20 crore population in India, right? So can we have the presentation, please? Yeah. So the topic is smart water distribution, challenges and issues in providing water to 20 crore Indian households. I think it's a very small statement to say that only 20 crores, the requirement will keep going as the Jal Jeevan Mission gears up for the full-fledged across the country, that it is going to be taking care with the increased likely population growth, including the urbanization is concerned. And as the the lifestyles also changes, the water requirements are also going to go up. So covering that, made a quick an introduction to this. What are the basic challenges and issues which we as a company, we as a nation, we as a citizen look at it and then see that encompassing how we can bring in solutions to this. So this is what I try to cover it. So the basic thing is there is a huge rising demand of water requirement, increasing risk of the contamination. Then there is a reluctance to use the smart technology in the water projects or water companies across, including in the municipalities. And there is also a very poor wastewater management does exist across. Excessive reliance on the groundwater, that is also is a depleting in terms of the availability itself. Then the inadequate capacity of, in terms of, I think the presentation is gone. Yeah. So previous, before slide, please. So there are basically the inadequate capacity of water companies to deliver the projects within the time and quality because of various contractual requirements. That's also leading to the the delays in terms of delivery, that leading to the non-availability of drinking water across. Then the lot of there are lack of strict adherence in the operation and maintenance of the the projects that are being taken up for water distribution or including the treatments are concerned, because there is a less stringent in terms of the penalties and KPIs also. Unlike in the stringent norms are being put forward, whereas here in Indian case there are not being followed very judiciously. And also there are a lot of high level of leakages of water during the distribution. I understand from the statistics, it's to the extent of around 50 to 60%, there are huge losses due to the leakages. I think that's one of the major challenges that we have. So next slide, please. So if I cut across the statistics on the rising demand is concerned, now we are only related to the drinking water. In 2020, in 2010, we had requirement of about 42 billion BCM. Now coming forward, in the going forward 2025, that is leading to about 62 billion BCM. Now it's almost 1.5 times got increased. Now by 2050, this is getting into the 3 times of the requirement. So the demand, which is visible in terms of the data that has been published by the Ministry of Water Resources, that itself shows clearly that the demand is increasing. Are we prepared in order to really meet these challenging requirements? Has to be dovetailed with the mission which is being thought of, and that I think we are in the right track as far as the Jal Jeevan mission is concerned. If it is implemented in right order, in right time, and right quality and right perspectives across all the states across the country, so possibly we should be able to achieve that. So, but there are always obstacles in terms of doing such a national level project is concerned. So we'll take you through a few issues and challenges, how and what way we are looking at and how it can be addressed. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, so fundamentally, if you go by the biggest challenges that we have, India is blessed to have such a number of rivers. I don't know, nowhere in the world does exist so many rivers. I mean, particularly the clean water. I mean, the river water, which so good and potable for usage, doesn't exist anywhere in the world. I mean, we are blessed as an India, as a Bharat, with a lot of the rivers which does exist, but unfortunately the BOD level in terms of all the rivers are concerned, it is all above 5 in terms of the BOD. Now that itself shows that these rivers are so contaminated that it cannot be useful also. Now if you go by the list that I've shown on all the rivers were mapped. In the mapping, the BOD levels are also highlighted. So none of the river which shows it is less than 3. That itself indicates that anything and above 3 as of the BOD level is contaminated, for which you need to treat. You need to bring in the quality of for a potable or a drinking water requirement standards. That itself is a huge task that is in the front of government and India and amongst all of us, that how we can able to resolve this. That's one of the fundamental aspect that I think I should highlight here. So we need to completely relook at it, how we are going to utilize these rivers and river contamination to be avoided and how to improve that. That itself is another mission itself that need to be looked into it. Not just clean Ganga. It has to be clean. All the rivers needs to be, as part of the requirement, also need to be clean. I mean, that's a big task that does exist in front of the government. The next slide, please. So this is basically the another aspect of is the poor wastewater management. Now, when I mean as the wastewater management, typically if you look at is around 30% of India's urban water only is getting recycled. Nearly around 70% is not getting recycled. For example, in Delhi, the consumption is about 3,420 million liters per day. That out of which leads to wastewater of about 2,600 million liters per day. Of that, only about 1,600 million liters per day is treated, and 338 million liters is used. Similar to the Bombay, because these two are the big cities. I took an example out of it. Mumbai is still worse, because according to the municipal corporation data, that out of 3,750 million liters per day, 2,300 to 2,400 million liters per day goes into the sea, almost untreated. Now, maybe it is a debatable issue. However, the fact is known. So in view of 6 months rain in the city, vis-a-vis the network that does exist, which is also quite perennial, and it has its own challenges, but this needs to be looked at it. Now, when you look at it at such a big metro cities itself, we are unable to manage it. Now, you can imagine at the tier 2 cities, including the district levels, including the rural level also. So there has been a major thrust need to be given on the wastewater treatment, which is that also need to be taken into account at the national level of across all the places. Yeah, next slide, please. So if you see the groundwater reliance is concerned, I think the green shows the predominant availability, whereas on the dotted of the pink and the red shows there is no groundwater does exist there. So if you go by the standards, river and as well as the groundwater is concerned, as I said, India is quite blessed that we do have a sufficient water which could be useful, which can be contained and used properly and treated and recycled. Then it is really going to make a big difference. What is happening is we are not able to properly recycle it or not able to treat it. It is being letting it out. That is what is the issue of becoming a shortage of water availability to the various people. So the meeting to the requirement of 20 crore is very much feasible. However, the infrastructure that need to be built in has to be taken at a high speed and a fast track basis, so that these projects can be done in time, in quality, so that the people get the water adequately. And there are ways to get the water also, but I think that is the next topic that we need to look at it. There's the solutions for it as well. But what is available when we are able to address and make good for it, that will really help the requirement of water to the people. So the other major issue is India is also blessed with the monsoon. Particularly, there is across all the states the rain does happens. The rain harvesting is one of the big agenda that need to be driven, so that you really contain that and use that, and also it is very much good in terms of the quality. An example of Tamil Nadu, which is also being used very well on this model, are also successful. This should be applied across other part of the. Please, quickly. So I think the technology adoption is one of the major important factor, whether it is the water infrastructure projects or at the metering level or at the water distribution levels are concerned, including on the treatment part of it. So there also we are lacking. So that need to be built in. So because the big players to participate in small ticket projects is a big concern in water. So we need to have the level playing field for all the the supplier or a contractor or the water infra participate and be in this particular journey of national building. So next slide, please. Next slide. So the classic, I think we'll go by the couple of the classic example, which I think we should able to also adopt across various states. So the mission mission Bhagirath in Telangana has considered to be one of the successful state that it initiative has really made quite a good benchmark. Possibly that one example, we need to look at it. The next slide, please. This basically started with Ghar Ghar Ki Nalla. I think that has proven quite well. The same thing before the Telangana started, there is the Narmada water supply at the Gujarat, which these two states have really proven they're like a torchbearer of this particular mission. And over and above to that, now the Jal Jeevan mission, which is at the central and the national level, and putting together as a team at the national level plus the state level and the partners in this journey as a contractors should be able to do all these requirements to feed the 200 million or 20 crore population requirement of water demand can be met very easily. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhupesh Garu. I think you have highlighted some of the key projects and the problems which you have. I think at the end of the day, the government, the government of India and our citizens looking for a good company, large EPC or construction company who come forward. That is what actually missing in India, to come and implement with the right size of the project. I think this is one thing to be noted from Mr. Chaudhury, Bhupesh Chaudhury, that when you do a packaging of the projects, you need to look at the large size companies, small companies, so that level playing field. That's one of the aspects. I think you are rightly highlighted that we have Bhagirathi project, Bhagirathi, Narmada, some good case studies and they are success stories. I'm sure Jal Jeevan mission also will be in that direction. Thank you, Bhupesh Garu. Thank you. Now our next speaker, my dear friend from Post Muscle. So may I request Jayesh, to please, you are very focused always. I think you need to really come out what is the key takeaway from this meeting. Thank you, Jayesh. Please, the floor is yours. Jayesh, you have to unmute. Just unmute the button below.
Yeah, sorry for the delay. I was unable to.
No problem. No problem. Jayesh. Thank you, Jayesh.
Yeah, good afternoon, all, and my warm welcome to all the colleagues here. Speaking about this very important I would say, aspect, water management. And I'm going to speak about holistic water management. Basically, I'm going to cover around 5 stories, and of course, hoping that I manage the time as well, and also do enough justice to all these 5 stories. So, just to set up the whole context, we all know we are just talking about 3% of the water which is actually usable, okay? And out of which only 31% is accessible. So, as many of the eminent speakers also spoke, by 2025, I think we are all going to be under water stress. And in contrast to this, what even Mr. Sonavane spoke about the Jal Jeevan mission being launched in 2019, we are talking about providing water to a lot more households, okay? And a lot of progress has also been done. Looking forward to that, and a general ratification from the government as to the whole stress now is, in addition to providing this water, how can we rejuvenate the water? How can we reduce the water? How can we do the grayscaling or grayscale water treatment, and 24/7 water supply schemes? So, looking at these aspects, I thought let us just get back to the reality. 54% of India is already water stressed, and what can we do for that? And that's where all my 5 stories would come on. I'll try and touch upon these 4 topics of water stress, which is the holistic water management. I'll take an example of an industry. From there on, I'll go to an industrial cluster where I'll try and give some examples of how a non-revenue water could be reduced, or how recycling of grey water could be made more effective. And then to the last example, where I'll take 2 extreme stories, one in Himalayan region, the other one in Gangetic Plains, to see how technology can actually help address these challenges in a proactive way. So let me run to my first story, the holistic water management. Here I'm taking up in one 75-year-old automobile major company, and this company is already facing some challenges like overcapacity, leaking infrastructures, overall low accountability to the water itself. Now, when a team was tasked to reduce the water footprint of the facility, they had done this kind of a study. They mapped the whole plant, and cutting across various sections. And that's where one of the section took up choice of going for a sensorization. They talked about putting sensors all across the plant, and that kind of failed. The other plant, which was in Pimpri, then started with a much more, I would say, holistic approach, the topic of my discussion. And the holistic approach was to see water in all respects, right, from quantity, quality, leakages, and the cost of operation involved. And that's where a systematic drill down approach was done. And when we saw the whole drill down approach together, we realized the need of doing a sustained partnership here. Now, when I'm talking about sustain, I'll try and touch base to Mr. Pradeep Singh's point about considering this as a utility, as a service deliverable. So, with that approach, when we treated this, the result was very much clear. Within 3 months, we were able to get the unaccounted water from 1200 to 1000 in 2 months. Okay, and for the first month was more of installing some sensors and working around. And apart from this, we were also able to highlight some key areas of improvements in the whole plant circuit as to what should be the way forward to actually bring down this 1200 meter cube per day to somewhere around 100 meter cube per day. So that's where one story about how a sustained partnership and a systematic top-down approach, seeing all perspectives together, can help improvement all across. I now move from one industry to an industrial cluster, and most of these industrial cluster were facing some challenges. And on the top, which you see those circles, those are the key addressals or the key critical factors. If addressed, would have gone success. Okay, so I'll not speak about much about this in terms of what was the whole cluster about, but this was a cluster in western part of India, to name specific Ankleshwar, where the GIDC, the Industrial Development Corporation, was supplying potable water, and they were not able to, manage what the irrigation department were giving them, the amount of water. What did they do? A very innovative approach. They started involving transparently all the industrial clusters, and within 6 months, they could see a tremendous result. As a part of house, what they did was just transparently allow each and every user, which you can see on the map, to kind of interact with the system. Right from monitoring to even payments or billing section was included, and that kind of gave a great of success. You can see we could actually get ROI for the whole project in 6 months, and herein with the sustained engagement, the expectation is to year on year see at least 20% increase in accounted water. Why and how? Purely because a larger involvement of, I would say, stakeholders, but also data coming in to our hand, wherein we are able to analyze, predict patterns, and also understand consumption patterns, which helps manage the whole distribution in a better way. So another case study of the industrial cluster, which I could touch base upon. The third case study, which again I'll talk about an industrial corridor now, and here the pain area was different. This is already a very water scarce region. We are talking about Chennai, and the whole focus was how can we reuse the water, and that's where the whole tertiary treatment came into play. But while doing this, they had certain challenges, and the team was tasked to get a higher water availability within a year. Frankly, we were able to do it in 8 months flat. But how and what we did is what I would try and go on to this next slide, where you can see the whole tertiary treatment plant was put up by the facility, and the whole aim was right now to begin at a very smaller level of only providing 10 major users the whole recycled water. So idea was to collect the water from the same industry, treat it, and supply it back. And when they actually approached us, well, for a partnership or engagement, it was a situation where the treated water, when we were trying to send back in a 28 kilometers long pipeline, there was an unaccounted water of 10%. So I remember Mr. Sonavane talking about, and I completely validated his point. The non-revenue water in today's city is somewhere around 45 to 50%. But at the industrial level, where the
Just
situation,
couple of minutes, if you can
yeah,
try to,
yeah.
take
So there's another two case studies which can happen in a couple of minutes. So the whole idea was this, even in an industrial unit where we are talking about 10% accounted water, we could actually bring it down to a very substantial level. How? It was with some site photographs with proper engineering, innovative design, providing a reliable data communication to access the difficult geography, and easy integration. We could put actually a lot more operationable, actionable insights to be gained here. So this was my another case study. Now I'll move on to a hilly region where the whole water supply scheme, managing the downtime was a challenge. So the key addressal was uptime for the whole water supply scheme. Let me explain you the whole water supply scheme. I'm talking about this hilly region of Mandi. We all know it's an important town while we go to our place called Manali. And the whole Mandi town gets water from this source called Hool River, which is nothing but a gravity line of 48 kilometers. Now just imagine, very well designed scheme, but after putting up into operation, within 1 month of operation, the scheme went down. And the reason was, this is the actual photograph of the site at the Hool River. where because of excessive rain, turbidity increased, water level increased, and the whole pipeline of this 48 kilometers actually kind of got choked with sand, and there was a 30 days downtime for the whole scheme. Now, when we worked up with a very aggressive solution, with a very simple engineering basis and some data analysis to put it through, what we could achieve was within 5 minutes, we were able to take an actionable insight wherein physically to approach this site, it would have taken 6 hours, and by that time the damage would have been done. So there you could see again the solution where this solution was tried and tested. After that, 3 times there were heavy downpours, huge silt in the river, but nothing happened to the water supply scheme. So overall uptime of the water supply scheme could improve to a larger extent. Now I come to the most relevant part, a groundwater case study, wherein a rural Gangetic Plain area where the whole water supply is largely dependent on the 2000 tube wells which they are getting, and the idea was to be frugal, and that is where the whole solution worked out. The common building block which can actually be replicated at multiple levels and also communicate to various stakeholders, right from the local tubewell operations to the village, to the district main center, to an expert team, to the government regulating authority who is managing the water level extraction. All across, the data had to be given, and in a very, very cost effective way. So unlike a smart city where you have a traditional, we had to be frugal. And that's where the whole solution came up, and this is an implementation where the whole idea and the focus is manufacturer itself is engaged in the whole I would say life cycle of the whole job of the whole project, wherein uptime of the tube well is itself. That's where you see a huge amount of savings as well as sustained benefit being delivered to the end user. So with this, I would simply sum up with my thought patterns. I've thrown stories right from an industry to an industrial corridor to a rural scheme to a tube well operating scheme. Digitization is an important tool, and I'm sure with these examples, we're equally confident that all these key challenges can be addressed by them. Uh, the only reason or only thing these challenges can be addressed is by providing a tangible user benefit, and only then we'll get a buy-in. And much more important is what not to do is a bigger key. So those are the key three important takeaways which I felt I should share with the forum in terms of approaching these challenges. And maybe I'll be much more happy and open to take your inputs to see whether we are heading in the right direction and what can be done further to improve it. That's all from me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jayesh. I think you made a wonderful presentation. You took the water audit to the optimization in the plant, water footprint, looking towards ZLD in the plants. So that's fantastic. And also you highlighted two important projects on the Mandi, which is hill area water supply system. In fact, that's where the intake structures and the right place to have the intake and turbidity or erosion is happening. I think this is a key takeaway for the Jal Jeevan mission, Pradeep Singh sir. I think whenever the contractors are looking at, I think you need to really look at the right place to have the water intake, ensure that the gravity system is working. It's a regular problem in most of the cases actually, especially when there is a flash flood happen, there is a landslides and all. And I think you have made a fantastic present in terms of taking how the water asset can be digitalization and ensuring the value and benefits. The benefits will come through the technology intervention. Thank you very much. I think quite a lot we can discuss, but our madam, she has a strict lifetime. We'll move ahead and we'll discuss if there is any questions. The next presentation from our friend from Schindler's, Mr. Sinha, I think he probably take us again water wastewater system. So I think I would request you to brief and make an impact what Joyce made it and 7 to 8 minutes. Thank you. Mr. Sinha, the floor is yours.
Dr. Pradhan, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. inviting me to share my thoughts on a topic that is key civilizational challenge today, I would say. Water is life, they say, and water is at the heart of our
Mr. Sinha, I think your voice is breaking. Would you like to speak? Are you speaking through your computer or you are using headphone? Your voice is breaking.
I'm speaking on my computer, Dr. Pradhan.
Ah, okay, okay. So maybe go a little closer to your computer. We are not able to get actually clear or audible voice.
Okay, I hope this is better. If it doesn't help, let me know. I'll switch off my camera.
Okay.
I'm actually traveling in.
Oh, sorry. Please go ahead. Yeah.
So, like I said, a natural resource which is abundantly available, but perhaps the most abused and taken for granted. Mr. Sonavani also talked about how it's considered a basic right, etc. So, citizen participation, unless we act fast and take deliberate steps, it could be very late too soon. But luckily, there are governmental organizations, even at the grassroots level, there is realization that there has to be something that is done very fast to address the challenges. Now, if I have to sum up the challenges that is faced by the water sector today in India, which is incidentally the second largest population, largest concentration of aspirational population, improving lifestyle, and so forth. The challenges can be put into 5 baskets. The first one being the access to safe and adequate water. It's a little late, I would say, for a country of the size of India, vigorously by the ambitious government programs and schemes to satisfy the drinking water requirements through there was Amrit in the past, Amrit 2, which is coming up, and of course the star of the day, I would call it the JJM, the Jal Jeevan Mission, which intends to transform the water availability, water quality that is delivered to its citizens. The important is the capex constraints. While we might want to deliver the best, we might want to deliver water to our citizens. It's also a fact that gets channelized a lot of funding. But to address the kind of challenges that we have, we always challenge to provide the right quality, the right equipment, the right technology at the right cost, which is capable of withstanding demanding requirements. The decision making, and this is where it all boils down to. We talked, it's 24/7, intermittent. Whatever it is, equitable, what is the need of the hour? NRW reduction, we heard a lot of people talking about NRW 45, NRW leakage being a major component of the NRW. And then there is proper water management, augmenting water circularity, meeting the intended social goals, enhancing the uptime and the service level, etc. So all of this boils down to the right decision making, and the right decision making in turn is dependent on the quality of data, the quality of decision making support that you get, which is essentially translates into the right kind of technology that you would implement, digitization, and all those things that come up. The fourth one, which is very operate all these high-tech systems, the latest technologies that are put in place, etc. There is also a need to attract the right talent to manage it, to maintain it, to run the assets, etc. It cannot go on with the same kind of mindset that we have today. That the need is to upskill the existing employees and to bring in the right talent and provide them a lucrative career option. And of course, then there is it all comes down to the recovery of investment, which is also critical, which is put in place, which again translates into the right kind of, which can also help. So while we meet the social objectives, there's also a self-sustaining model, which is what all comes down to the recovery of the artificial intelligence today, something which which has been in prevalence in the other sectors for quite some time, I would say. This is something which is new to water, but SCADA in some ways is for quite something which is new to water.
Mr. Shenoy, you can please turn off your camera. There is voice breaking.
All right.
You can. Thank you.
Is this better?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Is this better?
Much better. Yeah.
All right. Fantastic.
Mr. Nai,
Right. So,
in couple of minutes, if you could just ensure that you conclude your interventions.
Sure. Any change enablement strategy, should prioritize sustainability, decarbonization, reducing environmental impact, etc. Sustainable and resilient water management is only possible when we scale up the technology value chain and enter into the zone of optimization, integrated operations management, contextualized end-to-end ability and decision-making analytics. The key to empower decision makers with integrated end-to-end visibility, analytics, and actionable information. This is at the heart of the sustainability journey, as we call it, to keep pace with the water demands that we have and and to beat the water stress. Let's take the example of JJM. We've been talking about JJM, and I've called it the star of the day, which aims to provide tap water connections to every rural household in the country. There is immense focus on making it happen, and it's backed up by matching financial allocations. What would be equally important is to arm the various stakeholders, including the local bodies, the district authorities, etc., with the right kind of information so that they feel adequate and empowered to make the right decisions, to make the quick decisions. The state and the central governments would want to monitor the progress of these projects also to make sure that these social which are key to the JJM again are met during the operations phase as well as in the run phase. The water segment, which is at the cusp of technological revolution, today we look at some other talking about it to be done in the adoption of IoT-enabled smart water technology to help our customers manage better the freshwater resources, ensure equitable water distribution, help maintain water circularity, and to promote asset and infrastructure life, while reducing power consumption, saving on operational costs, and becoming customer-centric and ultimately optimizing the cost of ownership across the life cycle. Sustainability, a collective search of activities that will inspire the best in us. Thank you. Available for any questions, Mr. Pradhan, Dr. Pradhan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sinha. I think you made some great intervention and your inputs in relation to use of technology, leveraging the technology towards building sustainable and resilient water system, integrated approach, including the blockchain, AI, machine learning, IoT, SCADA, and all on top of those, leveraging those, and that's the benefit. I think what our friend earlier mentioned in his in intervention. I think the fact of the matter is that in the water industry, especially the utility, is the low paying for the innovation, implementation of innovation, and bringing technology. I think that's where I think our the inaugural address was given by Mr. Ramnath. He mentioned the water pricing and getting the right revenue so that you would be more. I think we will have Mr. Saurabh Das Patnaik, who is supplying 1.2 million water to west part of Delhi. He's already there. He'll be chairing another session. I think you can listen from him that how things is working in that in the absence of right pricing. So that said, thank you, Mr. Sinha, for your input and your intervention. Although you have been traveling and you could speak, and I think that was very good, very excellent. Thank you very much for your time and input here. Now our last speaker for this session is Amit Rajput. I think I'll he'll be talking more on again on the water, nanostone water. He is the BD manager. Amit, would you please take the floor and give your 7 to 8 minutes your intervention inputs?
Surely. So thank you, Mr. Pradhan, and dear Director, Mr. Singh, my fellow panelists and beloved audience. Good day to all of you. Nanostone water, as you mentioned, Nanostone is a solution membrane company based out in US, and it has the product line designed especially for the drinking water, wastewater, and the desalination applications. Today, as all of us know, and initially Mr. Somavan beautifully described, water is a stressed commodity across the world. And now we are turning into the wastewater, seawater, and the challenging water to meet our growing water demands. We at Nanostone make water treatment reliable, simple, and cost-effective with our robust ceramic filtration solution. Just to give you a brief about the company background, we are a decade-old modern organization. We started our commercial journey in 2016. We have our headquartered in Waltham, US, our fully automated factory in Germany, and it is largest ceramic membrane capacity in the world. We have our offices in every continent and fairly distributed employee workforce across the globe. Here you can see it's a glimpse of our automated factory and our manufacturing processes out there in the Germany. Talking about the ceramic membrane, yes, we are not the first one to enter into the ceramic membrane. Few companies previously has designed tubular, monolith, or even the surface ceramic solution, and mostly were based on the silica. These technologies has their own challenges in terms of the low surface area, high manufacturing cost, and lower yield. We at Nanostone engineered a patented design, you can see on the right hand side, patented design of the segmented monolith and overcame all of the previous ceramic membrane challenges. So this is how our ceramic module looks like. And just to give you a brief about the product, it is inside out dead end operation, having approximately 25 meter square surface area, and it is the alumina based. Alumina, as we know, it is the next only to diamond in terms of the hardness, and that is why it can tolerate most challenging water in the world, and even in the industries like of the semiconductor, where many of the technologies in the world are failing. This is how it looks like from inside. It has wide channel of the 2.4 mm and the pore size of the 30 nanometer. Because of the tight pore sizing, we have optimized our product and the production processes to optimize the yield, and it will give the lower capital cost and operating costs. It will give the improved performance and the reliability. Coming to here, Nanostone ceramic membrane, the key features and the benefits, it can operate at very high flux up to 6 times of the conventional polymeric membrane. It has higher recovery. It can stably run with the high solid loading, especially the inorganics. And we know as the water in many of the parts of the country is very challenging. Dosing of the coagulant is well tolerated, which again improves the performance. It can give you the stable operation without the pre-treatment. We can eliminate multiple processes like of the clarifier, multimedia filters, and the depth. saving significantly on the footprint, especially in the city regions, and in the given point of footprint, we can design a system that only covers 30% or 35% of the total footprint in comparison with the conventional technologies. Capital wise, capex competitive, it is system to system basis on the compact footprint. It can it is the pH resistant from 1 to 13. Operational temperature is also very wide from 0.5 to 45 degrees centigrade. And best part of this membrane, if we talk about the conventional thing, those are guaranteed up to 5 or 6 years of the life. These can be guaranteed up to 20 years of the life. We can say that for the entire project life, there is no need for the replacement. And if we talk about the ceramic in few part of the words, ceramic is doing fantastic job from the last 35 years without changing it. So it can give you the robust and the reliable solution. There is no fiber, so there is no point of the breaking or the repair. It will give you the lower operational complexity and the cost because of the fewer chemicals and the electricity is required in running the systems. These are the few drinking water certification across the world from the North America, China, Europe, and these are the few industries we have deployed our solution. So moving to various segments of the water treatment and starting with municipal drinking water, we know that we need coagulation, flocculation, sedimentation, and the granular filtration in the conventional treatment, which you can see in the top of the image. But more challenging feed water requires a more complex and costly multiple treatment processes, higher level of the contamination and the greater variability of the feed water quality increases the water quality risk and the frequency of the fouling and the operational disruption in the existing water treatment plant. So what we can offer, it can give the robust operation for up to 20 years without any fiber leakage or the downtime. It can eliminate the chemical dosing and other pre-treatment steps that is required with the traditional treatments. It can operate at the continuous high sustained flow rates, and it can replace multiple treatment processes which traditionally requires. So with that, our customer can be confident of the consistently achieving their water quality, operational and financial goals year over years, regardless of the variable influxes of the solids and the pathogens.
Amit, if you could conclude, please.
Sure. So these are the case studies where, with the help of our membrane, within the given footprint, we increase the capacity up to 40%. Same for the desalination, as I described in the municipal drinking water. In the desalination, also we can remove multiple processes, and with simple nanostone solution, we can come over the higher capex and the higher opex challenges very beautifully. And in the 20 years period of time, our solution is way ahead in terms of the capex and the opex parity. These are few the examples in Singapore, in Oman, Middle East region, and I'm happy to share you that we were exploring the India market from last few months, and the response we utilities across the country was very encouraging. And now we are moving and going to start our first fully built pilot for the municipal drinking water with Rajasthan. It is the Public Health Engineering Department, PhD, Government of Rajasthan. And it will be a showcase project for the entire country where with the minimal footprint and the competitive capex and opex, we can treat the most challenging water in the country.
Thank you. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Amit. And I would be happy to see that if municipal bodies are trying to use ceramic, which is of course is a very high capex. That's one of the reason. Of course, you can start with reuse, recycle project, grey water treatment on tertiary water as ultra filtration membrane replacement from polymer. I think yeah. So we need to look at that. The market it's not easy because, as you mentioned, that it's a low paying, low revenue return. I think industrial water is fine, or for life science projects, whether pharmaceutical and all, where you require high quality of water. I think ceramic membrane would be really working. I think. Thank you very much, Amit. I would like to now hand over the session to our chair, Mr. Pradeep Singh ji, to give
Thank you,
his
Dr. Ajay.
final
Thank you so much for
concluding remarks. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Ajay, for beautifully chairing the session. Although I think it was very challenging given the time. So what came out very clearly that this in our country for utilities it is a very exciting time, and be it gas, be it electricity, be it water, and to improve the performance, especially for water utilities. Key parts: source, the utility approach, the grievance redressal management, things like that, and then supply, monitoring of supplies, use of smart water, and all those smart things. And on top of that, sharing the information with key stakeholders and things like that. For in sources, we talked about grey water management, using the right sources, using of right kind of technology, and this technology came out again and again in all the presentations that we have to use technology to manage and to supply and to ensure the water service. Friends, we are all know that for all the 6 lakh villages, we need to provide tap drinking water supply to all our households to make their life better, to make life of our mother and sisters better. So this utility approach at village level is going on under Jal Jeevan Mission. We are having very large emphasis on that, very large capacity building. So a lot of opportunities are there. Kindly get in partnership with state governments, with local bodies, with us at various level, wherever you feel like. We have a very good dashboard. Kindly go through it. We have very good information regarding IoT implementation. Some of you were saying that there is still of restraint from public health engineering departments. So we have clearly detailed the roadmap for all our state governments, public health engineering departments, how they should approach it, so that on broad parameters all of us agree. Kindly go through that report, and I think there will be various other occasions where we can share more information and be supportive of each other, so that this water sector with utility approach really develop. Thank you so much.
Ajay, you are mute.
Dr. Ajay, you are not audible.
Oh, sorry. I was just thanking chair, and I was thanking the speakers for their input and time. And I'd to also thank everyone on behalf of the president of ISGF, Mr. Reji Pillai Sahab, and our friend Asima for joining this session, for you having your fantastic input and your time. Thank you very much. Back to you, Asima.
Yes, thank you so much. A big thank you to Mr. Pradeep Singh for chairing the session, and Mr. Pradhan for moderating this session so well. And thanks to all these guests for sharing their insights on the challenges and issues in providing drinking water to 200 million households. We will now move to the next session. Action plan India. This will be a panel discussion where we'll be having Mr. Saurav Daspatnaik as the chair and moderator for the session. Mr. Saurav Daspatnaik is the Managing Director for Swachh Environment Private Limited, an engineering and management professional with 33 years of cross-functional experience. Mr. Daspatnaik is currently the Managing Director of Swachh Environment Private Limited. Welcome, sir. For the first speaker for this session, CEO, Operating Officer of BioX Green Technologies Private Limited. Mr. Venkatesh has over 34 years of experience in government, consulting and EPC sectors in water projects. Welcome, sir.
Yeah.
Next, we have Dr. Abha Sargaonkar, who is a senior principal scientist, from National Environment Engineering Research Institute. Welcome, ma'am. Next on board, we have Mr. Nitin Basi, who is the program lead of water in the CEEW. Nitin Basi is a natural resource management specialist having more than 15 years of experience undertaking research, consultancy, and training in the field of water resources. Welcome, Mr. Nitin. I would now request Mr. Daspatnaik to.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ashima, and welcome to the esteemed panelists, and welcome to our previous chair, Dr. Pradhan, and Mr. Pradeep Singh, Director of the JJM. It's indeed a pleasure, and Mr. Reji Pillai, who has been one of the pioneers in setting standards in the country, not only in the country, I would say this is one of the finest programs which is now gaining momentum across the world. And full compliments to the ISGF team to have created and brought in experts from different quarters to bring in for a national momentum of the Jal Jeevan mission. So welcome. So what I'll do is I thought that we'll have it more interactive. And since time is at a premium, I would set the base of the key indicators and pointers for the discussions regarding the National Water Mission, and then bring it from the thematic to the implementation and execution stage, where we are struggling currently, and the experiences of all of the esteemed speakers and panelists who are there. So as a national water policy, as we have seen, as it evolving from the initial years and today, after significant amount of consultation and deliberations, and I must say that there has been fast progress in the last 4 or 5 years in the policy orientation and implementation, and culminating into the massive programs like the Jal Jeevan Mission, urban, rural, the Namami Gange, and even the ODF 2, ODF plus plus, which is also coming out as an indicator of that. Now, what I was looking at it as a policy framework basis, though we are reaching out to a large population in the rural and Amrit also coming out to the urban areas, the outlay numbers look very attractive and immensely, I think I would say it's a humongous amount. Perhaps one of the largest programs across the world. Now, one of the key points which we are finding while we are developing integrated, water resource management programs or project planning exercises, which is coming up, on to connect the dotted lines from a policy framework to the implementation plan and its review, and finally making these assets sweat in terms of its the return on investments is something, is a journey. To me, this is where the challenge lies, where the road and the tire hits each other, and then as a result of this exercise, outcomes happen. Experiences of the esteemed panelists, I would request Mr. Venkatesh Jayaraman, who is the Chief Operating Officer of BioX Green Technologies, to indicate some of these aspects where the policy framework and how your company as a individual, as a professional as well from the industry, are grappling and addressing some of the important building blocks in this entire policy. And thereafter, I will ask Mr. Nitin Basi, and thereafter Abha Sargaonkar.
Yeah. Thank you. Am I audible, Saurav?
Yeah, you're absolutely fine.
Yeah, fine. Okay, can I share my screen?
Surely, why not?
Yeah.
I'll request the speakers to be in to give approximately 5 to 6 minutes of initial deliberations, and after that we can have more of roundtable discussions.
Asma, have you given the rights, screen share rights?
Also, project the screen if required.
Yeah, I think I'm having difficulty sharing the screen.
Is on the bottom. Is on the bottom right.
I'm having.
Just allow me a minute. I'll share your PPT.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Thank you, Ashima. Thank you for the support. I think the presentation is coming on. So while we wait for the presentation, I think the discussions can continue. Yeah, here you have.
Yeah, thank you.
So I have shared the presentation. Whenever you want to move to the next slide, please intimate. I'll change the slide.
Thank you, Ashima. This is Venkatesh, and I thank ISUW for having given this opportunity to share some of my insights on smart water distribution. As the topic given to me was on setting up of water meters at all points across the distribution network, I'd like to share some of my experiences in this field in my past, which I think would be of some relevance and some kind of a takeaways from this. Basically, Jal Jeevan Mission, I understand it's not to Jal, and it's more of a connecting taps and supplying water through taps and for every rural household. But then my top urban aspect of it, and therefore I would like to bring out some of the challenges and some of the relevance on the smart water distribution from the urban perspective. Next slide. Yeah. I'm in my current assignment. I'm working for actually a bioremediation treatment processes, which involves bacteriological treatment for treating wastewater and also the industrial wastewater. Well, this is yeah. Talking about some of the the need of the water and also to actually manage water in a more smarter way. We have three challenges that we are facing right now. The first one is limited availability of water, which is a finite source, and this is also depleting, and there is a lot of indiscriminate exploitation of the sources, and therefore we need to manage and handle it in a smart way. And the third thing is on the increasing supply demand gap, because a lot of urbanization happening and the supply is dwindling day by day, also because of the climate change aspects. Next, please. This is just to mention that if we cannot measure water, we cannot manage it. Therefore, managing water both on the supply and demand side is the key to actually efficient management of the entire water supply system, both on the supply side and the distribution point. We see a lot of challenges that we face right now in the distribution leakage, especially non-revenue water, but that is a separate topic. Now I'll be talking more about metering and billing aspects of it. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah. So the relevance in today's context is that we have 5 important challenges that we face. The first one is on the network management, which is managed by utilities, and most of it is manually operated, and therefore there is a scope of at least some practices and some of the efficiencies can be improved in the distribution network. The second aspect is on the non-revenue water, where losses are pretty high. It is benchmarked that, based on secondary data and studies, that close to around 46% in most of the cases, there is non-revenue water happening, the losses, which means that for every 100 MLD supplied, about 46 MLD is lost either by real losses, leakages in the pipes, or by means of thefts, etc. Then asset management, that is again data on the existing assets, whatever, in case if it is a brownfield project, is not available properly, and not, most of the contracts we don't see that, and we have to go about creating a database for that. And the fourth aspect is on the measurement, which is very important when it comes to the current topic of metering. While there is a lot of bulk flow metering, both on the supply side, many of the distribution points, the consumer sides, are not metered. So that has to be addressed in its right perspective. The last one is on the distribution, where multiple inlets with low supply makes it very difficult for operators and contractors to actually execute the water supply projects, because these the big technology players, some of the main technology and the proven technologies internationally, are actually for or designed for cases where there is high pressure and also the supply is continuous. In this case, most of the Indian cities and areas where water is being supplied, we have once in 2 days or once in 3 days kind of a supply, where the technology interventions are very difficult to be deployed and managed. And also because of the low pressure, some of these interventions on the pressure management becomes very difficult. Next, please. Yeah. Mainly, I can classify the components of smart water into 4 categories. The first one is pressure management. The second one is leakage management, where active leakage control and leakage detection equipments have to be deployed, and it has to become part of the system, part of the O&M crew to actually manage water smartly. And on the first part, pressure management, we need to have proper PRVs, pressure transmitters, and pressure regulating valves, and the data loggers on the pressure to be installed at strategic locations, so that we'll be able to call out the data and manage it properly and see how the pressure is acting on the entire distribution system. The DMA approach also is very important for managing the distribution network properly. The third aspect is on the command and control, where asset management on GIS is very important, because it actually gives the management a more decision support tools to effectively manage the system. And the customer relationship management on the budget available, and the kind of interventions on technology that the municipality or the utility would like to have. The last part is and AMI are various technologies available, and depending on where flow meters, and there are 2 types of meters. The second one is the Voltman type meters, and if there is a good budget available, we can go for EMFM, because that can be easily integrated or connected with the SCADA and PLCs, and real-time data can be the data logging can be managed. The second one is the volt meter, which is more multi-jet mechanical type meters, which normally we have in Jal Jeevan and many of the utilities right now. And this has to be budget. We can choose which one we would like to go for. Next, please. Next. On the metering aspect, I just want to touch up. There are 4 different types of metering that is available. Unmetered, which is currently or generally found in many of the utilities. Now, these flat rates and consumption is not quantified. All that has become, it's being flagged up and highlighted in many forums, and therefore many of the new projects or because of human error and real-time basis, and it is customer friendly, and quick responses can be, the feedback from the customers and the complaints from the customers can be addressed more efficiently. Entire the pressure management, the GIS and the asset management tools, everything are mapped. Having spoken about the metering part to some extent, what are the types of meters and what are the interventions that we can take when it comes to metering? Implementing the metering is no joke, because metering is going to be high. So these are some of the conceptions that every consumer that we face, or when we do a metering project, they have this apprehension in mind. So therefore, it is very important that we need to educate the consumer, take them to conference, and make sure that they do not have this kind of mention that because of metering, their costs or their actual billing is going to go high. It's more educative process. It's a more consultative process, and therefore, if we don't get it on the ground and educate the consumer and take them to confidence, this will not be a reality. There will be a lot of misawareness created with the consumers. Therefore, having said this, it is important that apart from people, profit, and planet, we need to have the purpose of taking the awareness of the consumers into confidence. So this is a key to it, and this is, I think, Jal Jeevan Mission has come up with very good consumer awareness programs, and this should continue in the days to come to actually make this metering process successful. Next, please.
Mr. Venkatesh, I would request you to kindly
thank you. I actually had one case study where I would like to compare the multi-jet meter vis-a-vis the cost of AMI-based solution. Well, this is on the long run, just to summarize, on the long run, AMI-based solutions is actually effective because cost on the return on investment is better. Next. Next, please. I think it has to have an integrated and actually make metering a reality and also be more efficient in the current distribution network scenario. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mr. Venkatesh, I must compliment you for the wonderful presentation in a very simple and noteworthy manner. The last slide of yours is very appealing, that all of us are in the water sector, be it the irrigation, be it the flood management, be it the water management, that is water. But we are trying to see what best we can do within the challenges, what we have. The 4 P's concept which you have given us, it's extremely nice, and I think the planet, the profit, and the people are more important than anything else, and anything which is sustainable through profit and request Mr. Nitin Basi, who is from the Council on Energy, Environment and Water, see his experiences and his point of view, especially in the area of integrated water management. Being the council, they would be having a very good experience of different geographical issues and project planning and groundwater and interbasin management exercises which are there, and flood and irrigation management, also flood control, also because the amount the flood mitigation measures versus the cost of rehabilitation is something which we can think about. And I think over to Mr.
Thank you, Patnaik. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I will be now sharing my screen with your permission. Just for my confirmation, is the slide visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
They're visible and also audible. Both.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I am Nitin Basi. I work as program lead for with Council on Energy, Environment and Water. And the topic which is assigned to me was basically looking at the institution and the pricing, the water price. It also comes, lot from this integrated water resource management aspect, which Chair just mentioned. Before I take a start, just view what we are, what we do. So we are one of Asia's leading not-for-profit research institutions. We address pressing global challenges through integrated and internationally focused approach. We have been consistently featured among the world's best managed and independent think tanks, and also twice among the world's 20 best climate think tanks. We have footprint in 22 Indian states where we work across different stakeholders on issues related to energy, renewables, power sector reforms, low carbon pathways, risk and adaptation, and food, land, and water. Now, since the topic given to us, I mean, it was related to the institutions and the water tariff, it is important to also highlight, what the national water policy, kind of suggests, or the what national water policy recommends in this regard. So first and foremost, I mean, the National Water Policy 2012, it says for setting up those independent statutory water regulated authority in each state, which can promote equitable access to water and also decide on its pricing. Water charges, I mean, of course, they have to be preferably determined on volumetric basis, and especially when we are dealing with irrigation sector, domestic water sector, and as well as industry. Recycle and reuse of water to be incentivized through a properly planned tariff system. When we say properly planned tariff system, I mean, the idea is to keep the price or to keep the tariff of fresh water higher, so that the recycled or the reused water or the treated water is being reused, is used for various purposes, maybe secondary, primary, after providing the necessary tertiary treatment required for industrial use. And topmost is to the principle of differential pricing may be retained for the preemptive uses of water for drinking and sanitation and high priority allocation, which basically means that the water which is supplied for drinking and sanitation should be set at a lower tariff, so that because it is a basic need which is required, and then the other prices can be, or the tariff can be, higher. Now, if we look at the water regulatory authorities in India, that how India has gone about, how different state has gone about it, so you will find that only 8 or 9 states actually could come out with this water regulatory authority, and the foremost or the leader in this is Maharashtra. So they created this authority in 2005 itself. That is even before the suggestion forwarded. And thereafter, you can see 5 or 6 states have come out with the Water Resources Regulatory Authority, post the National Water Policy 2012. But, or tariff is not the sole kind of a responsibility of these authorities. They should also play an important role in actually, doing the intersectoral water allocation. Now, this is important because unless and until they know where the water for high value use is allocated to, the tariff or the pricing that would be suggested won't be able to capture the reality on ground. And this is where the WRAs are actually not able to lead ways or able to make a difference when it comes to improving water management, whether it in aspect of lowering the demand or promotion of efficiency, because their role is very limited at present. Another aspect is WRAs. I mean, especially if I talk about Maharashtra. So they set tariff only for the irrigation use of water. So they are not actually covering other sectors which include domestic water. So there is also a kind of gap when it comes to setting these tariffs across the sectors. Now we have been talking about a lot of technical things about the metering and tariffs. But it is also important to understand, whether people are willing to pay for it. So I will start, with the example of rural India. So what we found is that the willingness to pay for public water supply in rural areas is low. And now, why is it? I mean, we tried to do, some kind of a thinking, some kind of a deliberation, and it came out clearly that, as most of the rural water supply is based on groundwater, and 2/3 of India, it is under hard rock aquifers, and the recharge, the recharge aquifer is very limited. The aquifer storage itself is limited. Therefore, these schemes which are based on groundwater, they are unable to supply water year around, and that is why we keep on hearing this seasonal water scarcity, especially during summers in a lot of peninsular Indian states like Maharashtra, Karnataka, Kerala, Andhra, that in summertime they don't have sufficient water. So all these issues explain, they actually partly explain why the willingness to pay for water is low in rural areas, because the supplies are. When we move from the rural to the urban setup, what we find is that, of course, the supply levels for urban areas are much higher. I mean, in most of the cases, they vary from 120 liter per capita per day to 150 LPCD. What is interesting is that if we take a sample size of, let's say 20, 25 major cities, what we see is that the average water tariff, which is there, is actually able to cover the O&M cost of water production in most of the cities. Now, this doesn't include the capital cost or the infrastructural cost which has already gone in developing that system. And moreover, what we also and this is also kind of a suggestion which comes from the water policy, national water policy, that domestic uses they are highly subsidized. Now they are even highly subsidized for the well-off, for the well-off household. Like for example, in case of Delhi, so everyone gets this 20 kiloliters 20 kiloliters of water for free, irrespective, whether they can pay or they cannot pay for that water. So and then this is cross-subsidized by charging higher, which then kind of resort to withdraw larger amount of groundwater, then to depend only on the public water supply system. Just moving forward, I mean, as I mentioned in my previous slide, that O&M costs, at least the tariffs are such that the O&M cost can be covered. But for that to happen, whatever water which is produced doesn't happen, especially in the urban setup, which we have in India. So what we see is that there is a lot of this unaccounted for water losses across various cities. Now, what has happened that at the household level, of course, there is a lot of improvement when it comes to metering, but metering for flow measurement, which is done to measure the flow raw water treatment plant or from the underground reservoir, such bulk flow metering is actually not scaled up. Now, if I take example of Delhi again, so they could initiate installation of bulk water flow meters. I mean, Mr. Venkatesh also covered about various type of meters. Even Delhi, they could initiate this in 2018, and till now around 302 meters are installed. Now, why these bulk water flow meters are important? I mean, they are important for water auditing, definitely. I mean, when the meter installed, then only we will be knowing how much water is released, what is the flow, and what is the flow or the volume which is available at the user end. So this is a very important exercise. This is a very important infrastructure requirement that is needed, and then it will tell us whether the water is getting leaked or how much quantity of water is getting leaked and how much is actual theft. Now, as I was mentioning, this unaccounted for water, which is combination of leakage and theft, it varies from 13 to 60% across a sample size of, let's say, 15 to 20 cities. This is my last slide. So the key takeaways I would like to state are that, of course, ensuring sustainable domestic water supply within the household or the dwelling premise is crucial for the well-being of society at large. We also know that proper water auditing and water pricing is important to ensure equitable distribution and efficient use of water. But as I mentioned, this requires a strong institutional support. Maybe we require a strong water resources regulatory authority, which can play a much larger role, than to only set tariffs. And of course, the infrastructure at the household scale, meters, and also the bulk water meters. Now, from the long-term perspective, water should not only be utilities if they have taken loan for the creation of infrastructure, and also contribute to capital development. Now, this capital development, the infrastructure may be required in the future. So the utility also should try to, collect some money, which can help them in creating future infrastructure. Regarding subsidies, subsidies can be provided if they generate social benefit. Mainly to household. This is specifically for the urban household. So urban households which are below poverty line or in the economically weaker category, people will be willing to pay water if the water supply is sustainable. So as we have seen, they are unable to provide year-round access to water in hard rock areas, and probably these are the regions where we need to explore surface water sources, which can ensure that the water is available at the user end, and they are willing to.
Right, Mr. P, thank you very much for your I think deliberation. What has transpired is what you have just mentioned, some of the key features in your presentation, which is excellently provided, is you have raised a very important point of water pricing and cross subsidy, the need and how the regulatory authorities in some states are faring versus some of the states who have not even ventured out to the water regulatory framework. And then the issue of water audit. You mentioned all of Mr. Venkatesh mentioned, the previous speakers in the past session also mentioned about how to manage NRW. But this is a critical issue in the urban framework, and increasingly, I would say, going in the rural area also, we might be facing similar problems as we unroll the Jal Jeevan Mission in the village level also. The capital development, servicing of debt is one of the important points, and I will at the end of the this deliberation probably I'll give some case studies, our experiences also in terms. Session next round where more freewheeling discussions after having made the key points. So I invite Miss Abha Sargaonkar, Senior Principal Scientist of the National Environmental Engineering Research Institute, NEERI. NEERI, all of us know, is one of the most established institutions, and we have high regard. And kindly, have your point of view in terms of your deliberation on the national policy framework and how we as the federal system and the state system can interact in a much more, I think, meaningful fashion as well. Please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. Myself, Abha Sargaonkar from CSIR NEERI, Nagpur. Shall I share my presentation?
Yes, please go ahead. You can give around 7 to 8 minutes for the presentation, and I think then we can, throw up the points for discussion as well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it is visible.
Thank you, sir. My presentation is to monitor the progress of the national water policy. So, just to introduce, most of us know about the national water policy, which was in place to have safe drinking water supply to households. And the thing is, the policy says that we need to take the cognizance of the existing situation. So whatever is the existing situation, we must analyze it first and then take accordingly the corrective action to provide safe drinking water facilities to households, whether it is rural or whether it is urban. So urban, we know Amrut scheme, there are Government of India schemes in which Amrut to rehabilitate or regenerate the water supply schemes in urban areas. And now the Jal Jeevan Mission is known to everyone, is being implemented in rural areas to provide potable water in adequate quantity and prescribed quality through functional tap house connections. So this is a very challenging project, no doubt about it. But the thing is how we can help or how we can support these missions through some technological solutions that we can see in this presentation. So if we look at the urban water supply management, what we find a typical water supply scenario in many cities have intermittent water supply, low pressure water supply. There are customer complaints about leakages and contaminated water supply. And that's why they are not willing to pay. And as earlier speaker, Mr. Venkatesh also mentioned less metering, and therefore there is no revenue generation for the utilities. So in this scenario, with increasing demand for water and no revenue or less revenue generation, how they can maintain the 20 or approach the 24/7 water supply to even in the urban areas? It's a very question for everyone to think about. So if we look at the typical water supply scenario, what we find that the many cities have around 40 to 50% non-revenue water. So this much of loss to the utility is a very huge loss to maintain their infrastructure up to the mark and to provide continuous and safe drinking water supply to each and every household. So to meet the service level benchmark, what we can do, how we can improve with some technological interventions, and how we can avoid a reactive approach to operation and management. As Mr. Venkatesh also mentioned, I mean, there is per data maintenance thing. So availability of data is also a question to improve our that the knowledge of the system is confined to the local maps. If the fieldman is available, then only you will know what is the existing situation. It's not recorded, it's not available anywhere with the utility. So in this type of situation, it's very difficult to track supply management. So in such situation, there is a critical balance of investment and risk. This balance is for both, not only for the contractor, but also for the utility, because everything is managed by the contractor, and the water board or the utility has no information about its infrastructure. So what's going on and how they can improve their water supply system, it's not known to them many times. So with this background, just a minute.
Yes, please go ahead.
So if we look into in the context of data, as Mr. Venkatesh has also mentioned, what we find that there is no updated data of infrastructure or GIS maps. With no cities are trying to develop or get the things done get the things in place of GIS maps of water distribution network. But many cities today also, they do not have the GIS map of the water distribution network, and with proper attributes of diameter, pipe diameter, layer of those things. Also, there is no standard method for reporting the data, and there is no centralized platform. So these are the things which are very much required if we want to improve our water supply infrastructure in our country. So this insufficient data and poor results in poor planning of implementation of reforms and application of decision support systems. We have decision corrective action to improve our water supply infrastructure, but if there is no data, then we cannot implement these decision support rules. So what we are working on this aspect, generating the data, maintaining the data in standard platform, and developing decision support systems for the utilities, for municipal corporations, for water boards, so that we can strengthen them technically. So the relevance of this is because in Jal Jeevan Mission, lot of water supply schemes are being implemented, or they are putting in place in rural areas, in villages, at Gram Panchayat level. So naturally, many engineering drawings are being prepared to implement those schemes. So this data is getting generated. There are AutoCAD maps, or some villages have GIS maps for their water supply schemes. Then under Amrut schemes, ULBs are executing structural reforms in water supply network. So they are upgrading the network, so that data they need to that data also needs updation. So how they can do it? So what they need is a centralized storage. They need uniformity in data formats, and for implement or using analytics, data analytics and decision making tools, ULBs need access to their data. So it's their data, it's their infrastructure. So these type of innovative technologies are very much essential for the urban local bodies to get updated with technologies. So we have developed a data standardization framework for smart cities. Okay, so what it's a acronym name we have derived SAFRA WDS. SAFRA WDS is a systematic way of data storage and management. It is based on the Amrut guidelines and ISO 245 and 6 standards. The data can be stored in the standard format. So what can be stored? Utilities, ULBs can store GIS maps of water supply network, sewerage network, drain network, road, with detailed attribute of data in standard format of ISO 245 and 6 and as per Amrut guidelines. So this platform is for ULBs, for municipal corporations, for water boards. They can use this platform to maintain the GIS data, geospatial data of their infrastructure. And data can be stored, data can be downloaded for each district metering area and used in decision making. Mr. Venkatesh has already mentioned about the importance of DMA concept. So this facilitates storage of data at DMA level, and ULB can access this data. So there is a centralized database in cloud. We offer authentic user login to the administrator. It will be authorized login to a particular utility with its data. Then authentic login to ULB user who will be updating the data, editing the data, downloading the data. That user login is given, and authorities, they can collaborate with their IT professionals. Every department has IT department, and they can upload it, edit it, and download it for implementing any decision support system. So this is a project funded by DST. With this project, we have developed this centralized database framework for urban local bodies which are approaching, or who are trying to become moving towards becoming smart cities. Of course, it can be also used by Jal Jeevan Mission, where a lot of data and infrastructure and the data is being generated for village rural water supply schemes. They can also use SAFRA WDS. This is a RISC-PyNet is our decision support system. It's a modeling tool based on mathematical modeling for smart water distribution system management for smart cities. So this has a pipe condition assessment model. We know assessment of pipe condition, which is buried underground for several decades, is a very difficult task. Unless you dig the ground and take out the pipe, you won't know what is the its condition, whether it has really gone bad or it's good in condition. So it's a mathematical model based on data analytics. It predicts what is the condition of pipe. Then contamination risk assessment model is another model. In our country, we know that the wastewater or the domestic waste and many a times industrial waste flows through open nalas and drains. So when the water supply, water pipe comes in contact with such drains, or even in the contamination zone in the soil formed because of such drains, there is a high risk of contaminant ingress into the pipe because of intermittent water supply. Due to negative pressure in the pipes. So how to know the contaminant? Where is the exact location of contamination point, intrusion point? That is very difficult to find because of underground pipes. So this model helps, it's a mathematical model plus GIS analysis, helps to identify that contaminant intrusion point and detect that point in the distribution system, so that you can take out the exact, you can go to the exact location and replace the pipe or take the control measure accordingly. Then it has a module which can prioritize the pipes for replacement. If you are assessing the entire system of a particular DMA, you can find out how many pipes are bad in condition, which are attacked by contaminant ingress and which need replacement on priority. Then it provides the cost estimation. What will be the cost for replacement if we have different type of material selection choice for replacement of pipes. It also gives you auto report generation for the decision makers. You need not worry about.
I would request you to kindly expedite, madam.
Yeah, I'm going to my concluding slide. So it's a user-friendly software which helps auto report generation and technical support, and user manual is available with us. So there is you can link your SAFRA WDS with decision support system. You can download that. This is the back end of decision support system. These are the decision support system like RISC-PyNet, EPANET, WaterGems, AwareP, whatever you want to use for water distribution system, you can use it. But where is the data? Data comes from SAFRA WDS. So this is the back end of any decision support system, which you can use it for proactive or proactive planning or preventive maintenance of your water distribution system. So these are the technologies we are developing for municipal corporations and water boards to strengthen them, and they can they can use it, or they can upload their data, download their geospatial data of their network. They can analyze it and use it for any decision support system, for taking decision about operation management of the network. And the report generation, auto report generation helps to convince the top management with the authenticity of the data. So thank you very much for this opportunity. For any discussions or suggestions, you may contact Team RISC-PyNet on the address or the email. And you can also view our video on the YouTube about RISC-PyNet, which is available in this link. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your excellent deliberation and actually creating a high level of awareness. I think the water sector, both in the municipal side, ULBs, and also the industrial side, both in the cities and the rural, will need increasingly support of this kind of software. So before I open the panel, madam, I just wanted to have one clarification.
Yes,
this is where in this specifically the SAFRA have been implemented in any particular urban setting, in any of the metros or the B category cities. Have you implemented this, or anybody or any of the rural areas has it been implemented in SAFRA?
Sir, this SAFRA WDS is just now completed its development, and we are testing it with our whatever data is available with us. We have data for some cities for which we have done risk assessment studies earlier. For now, as we know, for Nagpur we have Hyderabad, Amravati, Shimla has shared its data with us. So whosoever has shared data with us, Indore City has shared data with us. So whosoever is sharing the data, we are trying to upload it soon we will try to make it available to them with some contacts through web. First, we will have interactive workshops to make them aware of these things and introduce this into the public domain, and then they can use this data, these WTS.
I think, madam, there is a very wonderful opportunity for ULBs and their officials to get trained and create the high level of awareness may be created for use of the software and its benefits. And I think there could be a major integration with Amrit in the urban setting and also in the rural setting also going forward for the Jal Jeevan mission. Immense amount of work can be done by integrating. I think it's a hoard of data, and it will be a more of it's going to be a data mining also out of this information which will be generated out of it. So with this, I think the first round of our presentation of the esteemed speakers have been concluded with a lot of insights, and I think throwing open many good points which have come in. So I think I would now request for the panel to be more interactive in terms of three issues. I would like to just throw open to the August House with the permit of our our Mr. Singh also. One is that we mentioned about the need for last mile implementation. Madam also mentioned about last mile implementation. It's very subjective. Second, which is coming up, is the capacity building, the people front. The capacity building is different in different states, in different levels of framework. And thirdly, is the pricing mechanism. So first, I will come to the pricing mechanism. In terms of the national policy, the leaf out of example of the Electricity Act, how electricity privatization PPP has happened in the country successfully about 25 years back, and thereafter the Electricity Act has gained momentum under the APDRP as well as on the urban setting. And today, one of the most efficient indices is not only in the generation but the distribution losses today. We talk about NRW of 45 to 50% NRW, whereas the Electricity Act also, I remember in the early 1970s, 80s, power theft in some of these states was rampant, and it has become a kind of a plague everywhere. But today, the distribution losses have brought down to only 3%, 4%, 5%, not exceeding 10%. Definitely not. So I think the entire scenario has changed drastically in electricity with the advent of not only technology, but enabling regulatory framework, giving teeth to the people who implement this project on ground. The power to go to court and power to disconnect in the power sector is very, very strongly implemented. Unfortunately, the water sector seems to be having a lag between the power sector of around 20 years. The learnings which have been there in the electricity can be implemented. So I think I wanted to open up the discussion here. Can we seek some of the remedies, not only that as a copycat, but to see how we can draw up the learnings it faster so that we can get to the mission mode faster. So with this, I think Mr. Venkatesh, Mr. Basi, Abaji, you can give your opinion how we can deliberate this. Mr. Venkatesh, may like to comment.
Yes. Hello.
Yes, please. You are very audible.
Yeah. Very rightly said that energy sector way back in 1985-86 they have implemented this Bureau of Efficiency. The compulsory energy audit has to be done for, it is mandatory for most of the industries today. I think that kind of a audit has to be carried forward, or even that analogies have to be taken even in the water sector. We need to have a policy where at all the utilities, all the industries, they do have some kind of a mechanism where they do periodic audit at least once in a year or once in 2 years, and it has to be mandated to submit a report on water audit. So we have to start it from the audit point of view first. Then comes the metering, smart metering, all that. They have gone way ahead in metering. We have not even come to the era where we have any kind of AMR meters also, for that matter. It is still flat tariffs, and it is also flat rates that we still continue on. And in many cases, it is unmetered. So therefore, my take would be actually to replicate or implement some kind of a mandatory regulation on water audit to start with, following the energy audit mandates, and then see how we can actually improve and the efficiency of water supply system as well. Thank you.
Right, Mr. Venkatesh. To Mr. Basi, in terms of regulatory framework, you mentioned about pricing as a very important point. But do you think political will is there in the states for populistic measures, not the economic measures or the populistic measures, to actually draw upon, forget even the irrigation part, forget the drawing of underground water, which is absolutely not there. I think today the agriculture is the largest consumer of water, both underground as well as surface water. So now coming to the political will and the policymakers will to implement the pricing mechanism in a transparent manner, in a staged manner, in a telescopic manner. Some of the learnings like Delhi Jal Board, Mumbai and other is there. But again, it's a huge gap between what should be and what are we, currently. So Mr. Basi, your comments on the how do you think enabling framework can be driven on pricing? Number one, pricing for regulatory in purpose and pricing for economic purposes, and efficient use of reuse. How to mandate this and make it work on ground? Mr. Basi, please.
Thank you, Mr. Saurav. That's nice. Actually, I mean, you touched a very interesting point when you spoke about political will, and this is what I wanted to also speak on. But before going to the political will, I mean, I would just like to kind of, make a statement here. Unfortunately, what has happened is that water is still seen largely as a societal good. And there is this tendency that whatever is for the society, it should not be charged, it should not be, charged highly, or it should not be something, which people get upset about. And then it is linked to the political will. So politicians or the larger governance system see this as an, kind of opportunity, not to, offend or not to, kind of become unpopular, by adopting certain practices that may against the popular mandate. Having said that, definitely, I mean, pricing has to be there. I mean, it is not that if the good is for the society, it should not be priced. But what I will say is that, if the concern is about the society, then there are always subsidies, which can be provided. But that doesn't mean that you don't price the resource. You need to price the resource. So this is where I think the political will, the regulators, and the representative from the civil society, they have to come together and maybe work in a framework where the tariffs are designed, and those tariffs are designed, and then subsidies are also designed, considering that who are those which won't be able to afford such pricing system. So if we can create that kind of environment, if we can create that kind of a stakeholder engagement, I think this is something where the political kind of a resistance can be overcome.
Now coming to this point of direct transfer of the government today, Government of India and some of the states are now trying to drive direct transfer benefits to especially the economically weaker sections. Do you think in water tariff mechanism, direct transfer mechanism can also be driven through efficient and innovative use of pricing mechanism? Like today in Delhi, you mentioned up to 20 KL is free, but then you mentioned that after 20 KL people are charged, but it is not connected to the economic part of the earnings of the potential. Do you think there is a way to connect this as a direct transfer mechanism?
Yeah, see, whether it's a 20 kiloliters or 10 kiloliters, I mean, if you ask me, 20 kiloliters is a whole lot of water, for a family of 4 people. So, almost 80% of the households in Delhi, they are not paying any water bill. I am not paying water bill. I can pay, but even I am not paying water bill because my consumption doesn't cross 20 kiloliters. What can be done, and this is where we can take some of the experience from the energy sector, whether it's about kind of installation of those prepaid meters, or there are some kind of a token system. So in some of the rural areas, I have seen these RO plants being set up by the government. So they usually have a token system. So you buy a token, and you get as much water you want. You want 20 liter, you get a token for 20 liter. You want 5 liter, you get a token for 5. But in this way, you're at least paying for the water. you are at least paying for the water. So similar sort of thing can be implemented for those who are who are unable to afford, for those people who are below poverty line. And for people, again, the purpose of tariff is not only to price water. It is also to, make it efficient use, to ensure that it is used efficiently at the household level. So even to the well-off household, you pick up a number, which you think that they will be able to manage. Let's say 10 kiloliter, 5 kiloliter, and you ask them, you challenge them that you use 10 kiloliters, we will give you 50% subsidy in water bill. You use up to 15 kiloliter, we'll provide you 75 percent, 25% rebate.
What about the pricing on the reused water? I think the pricing on reused water is still not transparent and still not workable. You mentioned to fix the pure water, that is the fresh water at a higher level, but the cost of the reused water is high in terms of its treatment cost. So how do we do this pari passu structure? That's
So
something which
actually,
is we are grappling with.
I see here it's a very challenging thing. What you just asked, Mr. Das Naik, it's very challenging, and I may not be having a straightforward answer to it. But what I feel. I mean, having worked in this water reuse domain also on certain projects, what I understand is that first of all there has to be need for that treated water. So suppose if we talk about areas in Ganga Basin, where we are installing a lot of these wastewater treatment plants, actually there is no demand, because if I am a irrigator, I will just drill a well and withdraw water. So the water level are shallow. I mean, I don't energy is free, so there is no demand for that reused water when I can get fresh water. Now, when we come to like cities, now I have seen in Delhi, a lot of people, they get this treated water because see they are not demanding it, but especially the peri-urban area where they do certain kind of small scale crops they take, be it vegetables or small crops at a very small scale. So they get this secondary treated or in certain cases also primary treated wastewater, but even they are not actually paying for it. So unless and until we ensure that first of all in this water with regions, maybe the idea is to just treat water and recycle it, give it back to the system. Maybe that is more beneficial. Whereas in the case of regions or the basin which are water scarce, there it makes a lot of sense to price water, so that we take away certain certain kind of a pressure on fresh water resources, and in the similar
Correct.
manner we encourage people to take this reused water, which is priced slightly lower than your fresh water.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Bassi. I think, Ashaji, one very important thing which you mentioned, and I think from an overall framework, capacity building, understanding the data, leveraging the technology, both on the hardware side as well as on the software side, and then open platform which you are creating right now. Very, 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 very extremely valuable for the entire national grid. If I were to say the national grid of power vis-a-vis the national grid for water, if it's been
So
created.
very sorry to interrupt, but we have to quickly wrap this
Yeah.
session. So we're already 25 minutes late.
Okay, we just about, I think I will ask Ashaji's comments on how to make it more elaborate, and then we will close this.
Yeah, so because the speakers lined up in the next session have to leave.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sir, we are hopeful that it will work, and we are trying to bring in the utilities under one umbrella. We are trying our best to bring them in so that they get training for this, using this. I know it's slightly difficult, but to whomsoever we are contacting, they are showing interest. So if they come with us, they join hand with us, we will definitely train them to use this, because it's a slightly new technology, what I can say. So the user has to have comfort. He has to develop some comfort zone with this, because GIS mapping and thing is not everybody's task. So the utilities should also have GIS experts, or at least the person with IT
Right.
background and GIS knowledge. So the requirement of manpower at ULB level is also needs to be seen. So if the ULBs are equipped with IT infrastructure, of course, internet is everywhere. So this will be available in public domain. So they have.
I see an opportunity for ISGF to actually help, handhold, and integrate the ULB ecosystem to actually go ahead and create this platform, open platform of knowledge sharing and dissemination and capacity building. I think, thank you, madam.
Very nice. That will be very nice, sir.
In the next session, that is
with this overwords, I please hand it over to Madam, Ashima, and Mr. Pillai is also there. So please go ahead. I'm sorry for the delay.
This is exactly what we are going to discuss in the next session. Please stay back, those who have time.
So thank you for your participation. I think it was very innovative, engrossing, and everybody was so much involved that we spent a bit more time. And sorry for having stepped out of the time limit. But with these words, I think I hand it over to Ashima. Thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you, Mr. Saurabh, for chairing and moderating this session so well.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Now we'll, and I thank all the panelists also on board for sharing their insights. Now we'll move to our session 3, which is integration of water and electricity distribution utilities. We'll have an introduction by Mr. Rajikumar Pillai, who is the President of India Smart Grid Forum. And the speakers in this session are Mr. Sanjoy Roy, who is the CEO of Orange City Water Private Limited, Nagpur. Mr. Sanjoy Roy is a visionary civil engineer with BE, MBA, and doctorate with water supply management. Welcome, sir. Next, we have Mr. Vinit Sikka, who is the Senior Executive Vice President and Head Business of BRPL. Mr. Vinit Sikka is a professional with business leader with 32 years of experience in senior management roles in large organizations like Siemens. Welcome, sir. And we have Mr. Sumit Gupta, who's a mentor and co-founder for Asset Plus Consulting. Mr. Sumit has been a solution evangelist for smart grid, renewable energy, and power management in the past. Welcome, Mr. Sumit Gupta. Now, I would request Mr. Rajikumar Pillai for an introduction round.
You go.
Thank you.
Go mute. Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you very much for joining for this session. And apologies that we are running a bit late. So in the utility integration, at least the digital platforms of all utilities can be common because the customers are common. In my house, I get gas distributed by IGL, I get electricity from BRPL and water from DJB. And 3 places I make payment. And in case of a complaint, 3 places I have to call up and make a complaint. So all this can be clubbed together. This is an idea which we have introduced through a white paper in 2015 at the launch of the 100 Smart Cities program, which got attention. So extending the digital assets of electricity distribution companies to other city services like gas distribution, water distribution, security, transport, all those other domains at marginal cost is the fastest and cheapest route to build smarter cities was the theme of that presentation, white paper, which has been loaded globally, and I was invited to make presentations in many places. And a year later, in 2016, IEEE started a series of conferences called Smart Grids for Smart Cities. So the basic idea we proposed was sharing of database. In India, through RIPDRP and IPDS program, more than 1,000 cities have GIS map, the topic which we discussed in the previous session. The buildings or the customers are indexed to a GIS map, which has the complete electricity distribution infrastructure, which inter alia has the road, all the buildings, everything in that digital map with the electric utility. In some places, maybe they are not up to date, but it is available, maybe updated on a monthly or a quarterly or a half-yearly basis. But in many places, they have changed their business process. They don't give a new connection without it is being incorporated in the digital map. So things have changed now. The same map can be extended or shared with the water distribution people and gas distribution companies, so that they know where the electrical cables are. And in one map we will have all this underground things, so that one agency go and dig and make damage to the other infrastructures, which is common. We always see that people who are laying either cable or a fiber optic cable, they damage water pipes. The whole road is the whole colonies are flooded and leaked. So it takes days and weeks to repair. Same with all other infrastructure sectors. So sharing of this GIS map, one. Number two, the customer data. Now that's a time when the PNGRB started issuing fresh city gas distribution licenses. Now, as we speak, about 90% of the geographical area in India have city gas distribution licenses. At that point in time, in 2014-15, there were only 5% or less than 10% of the geographical area had CGD license and operations. Now, so many private companies have come into CGD business, but when you ask them, they don't know where to target, whom to target, and which area in a city. Even a tier 2 city, if they take, when they go there to do city gas distribution, who are the residents of that city? There are many public data available, but none of them are correct. But whereas we have the complete digital data of the electricity customers, not only their customer data, address and contact numbers and location where the building is, but we also know indirectly we know their income levels also from the way they consume electricity. Who has what kind of a connection? Somebody has 3 kilowatt connection, somebody has 15 kilowatt connection, somebody pay 500 rupees per month, somebody pay 20,000 rupees per month electricity connection. So if that data is shared between a new CGD licensee, he can actually focus and target his operations in areas where the willingness of people will be higher to take piped gas and in the house, and also easy to contact with the correct email, correct phone number, correct address. It will be easy to contact them and bring them onto the CGD platform. And other thing which we talked about was the bill, one combined bill. How convenient it will be. Most of the electricity companies today in the country have a very good customer portal, and they have digital payment options, which as thanks to the pandemic, that has seen a much bigger percentage of people actually paying on the digital platform in the last 2 years. This can be those who are not speaking may please go on mute. So another few minutes I take to explain this concept. So the cost of doing business, you take the case of the electricity distribution companies in Delhi, both the BSES companies, BRPL and BYPL, as well as Tata Power Delhi Distribution, they use SAP billing system. IGL, when they started operation, IGL also use a SAP billing system, SAP ISU. So all of them are paying license fee and having experienced technical team to maintain the system. More than the license fee, the question is about having dedicated teams to do that. So cost of doing business is very high, which can be drastically brought down provided we have one bill for all these three domains, and at least to start with. Later in Bangalore, when I was presenting it, the commissioner had told me that the biggest challenge in Bangalore is collecting the house tax, which is done only once in a year. So many of the times people are in traveling, or the houses or flats are locked, and the boys or girls who are taken the house flat on rent, they are in Europe or in America or Japan doing coding. When they come, the bill is lost already and they don't get it. They are finding it extremely difficult. Less than 50% was that time the collection. So why don't you club that also with the electricity bill and collect it once a year, take a percentage by BESCO, and then give the balance money. I mean, this kind of things being discussed about. So finally in 2018, we've been able to make an MOU between Tata Power Delhi Distribution and IGL, and they had taken two electricity divisions in West Delhi, Northwest Delhi, for a combined bill, and which went quite well, and it went live sometime in planning to scale it up, but then the pandemic hit, and last 2 years there has not been much of progress on that front. But Tata Power, Delhi Distribution, and their management was quite happy. They wanted to. They have a franchise in Ajmer, and they have complete Orissa now. So they wanted to try the same thing in those geographies as well, and some proposal is being made. But the very important thing which has happened of late is BYPL and BRPL jointly, they have signed an MOU with IGL, and they will be doing this in an accelerated speed. So yesterday in the city gas distribution certain things which is even beyond what we envisaged in our white paper. So is a lot of new connections being given, new buildings, new colonies being added, new electricity connection being given. So the application form itself will have a couple of columns which will, or rows which will talk about, do you also want a city gas distribution like connection from IGL? And if so, these are the things which you need to fill up. And same we intend to do with the DJB for the water connection as well. So single form, you get all the utility connection payment to all that. And India at this point in time is on the threshold of % smart metering. So for the electricity customers, after years and years of brainstorming, Ministry of Power has come out with a program called RDSS, which one main component of RDSS program is smart metering for all customers in the country, 250 million smart meters. So since this will involve building a last mile connectivity to every customer, or automated meter reading of gas meters and water meters and several other applications. So it will be a marginal investment for CGD and water distribution companies to engage with the electricity companies and offer this service, which will go in a great way in customer delight. With years of effort, we have been able to get one 4-digit number as electricity complaint number all across India. Like you call 100 and 101 and all that, we have 1912, 4-digit number for electricity country. And the electricity companies, even the state government owned distribution companies, have made substantial investment in this call centers over the years through assistance from the Ministry of Power, from the previous programs like RAPD, RP, IPDS, etc. They all have state-of-the-art call centers, and some of them have already started introducing AI tools such as chatbots and voice bots. So the same call center can be extended to CGD companies and water distribution companies. You dial 1912. You are greeted by dial 1 for electricity, 2 for water, 3 for gas distribution. That thing can be done with very limited investment, very marginal investment, and no need for water distribution company and city distribution companies to maintain such call centers and incur cost. And there are many other things which can be done. Many of them have a outage management system, a IT tool where right crew with the right tool who are nearest to a fault location can be dispatched to attend to the electricity faults. The same IT platform can be extended to the maintenance work for water and gas distribution domains as well. So these are all today's technology at marginal cost. We can do. Only thing which we require is a cooperation, and this is something which the time has come, and we had great support from the CGD side, from the previous Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Mr. Tarun Kapoor, who was likely to become the next regulator of PNGRB. So we also launched with his support, we launched a CGD forum. The same way we wanted to do a water forum, smart water forum for a country. So bring all the municipalities and all the water distribution companies, at least from the major cities, together and make a marriage between the electricity companies so that we could have this the utility integration. End of the day, you are all servicing the same customer, and every customer would love to see that there is collaboration and cooperation, and which makes their life easy and down, and that same benefit can be passed on to the ultimate customer. And yesterday, Vineet, your colleague Brajesh talked about other two things which they in the MOU they have added. The assets of the gas company, the IGL and BSAs will be leveraged for installing EV charging stations. The electric vehicle charging stations. It can be in both the company's premises or assets which they own across the city. Same with the DJB. DJB also own a lot of assets across the city, and those places we can install EV charging stations. Also, rooftop solar. Rooftop solar has become economically so attractive. 30 to 35,000 rupees, you can have a 1 kilowatt of solar panel installed along with inverter, and the cost of electricity from this is going to be much less. In a day, typically in north and western part of India, you can produce 5 units of electricity, and which you are buying from the DISCOM today, those who are commercial customers, 8 to 9 rupees plus taxes. But what you produce today, if you install panels at this kind of prices, 35,000 rupees, the return on investment is less than 3 years if you are buying electricity at 8-9 rupees. So this premises of the gas distribution company and water distribution company, when you install solar panels, there are a lot of areas, you have huge water tanks, your pumping stations, etc., and buildings. If you install that, the distribution company itself will buy electricity from there. You can enter into net metering arrangements and agreements for that. It's an additional, or you could even lease out to third parties for installing solar panels in those. So all that can be covered through this utility integration, which we believe that will usher in a real smart cities in the coming days. So with that, I hand over to Ashima. He will call the other speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. I would now request Dr. Sanjoy Roy for the deliberation on this utility integration. Sir, you have to unmute yourself.
We can't hear you.
Now it is okay?
Yes, sir, you're very much audible now.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, ISGF, for giving me these topics, very important topics, that integration of water and electricity distribution. I thank you, Mr. Rajiv Pillai, for giving a very brief and clear thought regarding benefit. What we can tell that this regulatory framework first challenge is this UL. So that has to be integrated first, that it has to become to one government banner, that is maybe state government or at ULB level. So that is the first challenge you have to do. And after that, yes, obviously we are having huge benefit for doing this. Water, electricity, both infrastructure work together, then a lot of benefit will be available. The first benefit we can what we have told that electricity, as we are doing the 24/7 at Nagpur city from OCW, we regularly face the challenges regarding the utility, and what we have seen that electricity unit number and our water supply unit number is different. For this reason, it is difficult to search for a consumer which both are electrically connected and common consumer data is not available. So this is the first point what we feel that sharing of customer data and single GIS map is very important. Second point is common billing system for water and electricity distribution. Third, we can say that common IT infrastructure for water and electricity distribution. Fourth point we can discuss regarding collaboration of smart metering for water and electricity. Enhancement and cost reduction through integration and seen way forward. If we discuss one by one point, first point is first is for creating common GIS, we have to create one identification number. It would be same for both electricity and water. That way we can integrate the GIS. When we integrate the GIS from one who is the consumer, so for electricity point of view and so for water supply point of view. Sharing of customer data and GIS map, if we think on this way, the supplier, that means who is providing the service, it will be easy identification of customer with defaulter, paid customer, non-paid customer, area, balance, etc. with their location can be identified. So for electricity, so for water. Theft also easily can be judged. Meter or any sorts of person go for checking of electricity or water, he can check both the ways. So now the infrastructure, we are using two infrastructure. One person is going for water, one person is going for electricity. When it will be a unique ID, one single ID, then single connections, so that that time one people is sufficient. So there is a huge cost savings in the manpower. Non-paying on either electricity or water can be motivated for payment. We can say that electricity or water, if any person is having any difficulty for payment or difficulty or any issue, that time what we can do, the single person or single department can sort it out. It is a one-point contact. So it will not be difficult for a customer. If we see the customer point of view, apply for connections, bill payment, dispute resolution under one umbrella. So one new consumer can go to one department and get out electricity and water. One property record is eligible for both the connection, content integrated statistical and the data analysis tool, accessibility anywhere, anytime via the internet. So one sort of people, one type of statistical people if work together and they can detect what is the problem related to water or what is the issue related to electricity. So for new connections, so for water supply, so for bill payment, so that can be sorted out under one umbrella. There is an immense benefit if we can integrate together water, electricity. One common billing system for water, electricity distribution utility also can be developed by a collaborative approach that we can do mapping of unauthorized consumer. So for electricity, when people go for electricity, he can search of that water is available or not. He is a legal consumer or unauthorized consumer. Data standardization, that means by GIS single unique ID, we can standardize the data. Correct consumer category. Consumer category, if there is any disputes, any problem, that is upliftment of category or correction of category. So for electrical or water, both can be handled together. Share manpower for billing, discourage default in consumer. By this way, when it's a focus both the aspects together, then there is a chance of revenue increase and theft reduction. 24/7 toll free, what we have done for water, that same I think also available for electricity. If it is combined together and 24/7 call toll free number and call center is operating, then it will be easy for consumer to sort out their issue regarding all the water or electricity related problem. Online payment facilities, photometer reading, online billing, 24/7 complaint management can be tackled by this one call center that will both for electrical and water together. Common IT infrastructure, water distribution, electricity distribution, what we are telling, it is also big expenditure for any operator or government. That for electricity, we have put one SAP system, robust SAP system. It is expensive. And water also, we put a robust SAP system. This is also expensive. So if we combine both together through one unique ID and from one SAP system, we can take out the bill for both the parties. There will be huge cost effective, and this cost effectiveness can be passed on to the government and passed on to the consumer. So both will be benefited and it will be win-win relation. Single contract, what point wise, if we discuss that single contract for consumer for meter reading, billing, collection and analysis of both the utilities. Single platform, single integration, single self-service portal for consumer integrated for both the utilities, providing enormous opportunity in analyzing with integrated solution. And the very important viability cost, low operation cost will be achieved. Enhancing customer experience through integrated of utility. When people go for electricity, he can take the feedback for the water also. At the same time, vice versa, when go for water, they can take feedback for electricity also. So common service point of consumer, shares resource like software, hardware, manpower, one call center for both the utilities, common payment counter, wide reach of consumer service center, common portal for consumer management. So it ultimately service level result in higher degree of customer satisfaction. Way forward is very important. This is all the things what we are very sure that after implementing of these things, it will be very useful for everybody. What Mr. Rajiv Pillai also told, what is the benefit, we also know the benefit. But for way forward, very important is as both are dealt by two different platforms, water by ULB and state power by state level. So national policy to develop to integrate, that is the first most priority job, that national policy to be developed to integrate. Then core committee to be formed, like Amrut has formed for water supply, Jal Jeevan Mission has formed for water supply, electricity also different maybe formed, but these to be this to be combined together, integrate together. One core committee is required who will look after as a bird's eye view and make the two things together. Then strategy to draw for implementation. From that, one strategy to be developed. And finally, pilot project to be implemented to check the viability. So that way, we can go ahead for integration. It is a long run process, but it's a cost effective process along with, I can see efficient management. Both, it will satisfy the customer also. It will satisfy the government authority also. So with this, I want to close my presentation. Thank you. We also want to declare that in Nagpur, OCW Orange City Water is already supplying 24/7 water to 70% consumer, what I think Mr. Gadkari has communicated yesterday in the newspaper very boldly. And we are celebrating success glory of 10 years completion Orange City Water. Thank you.
I will now. Mr. Sikka, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah, over to you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks, Mr. Pillai, for giving me an opportunity to speak on this forum. In fact, I was listening to the last session speakers, and there was one very nice thing which they mentioned, that maybe the water distribution is almost 20 years behind electricity distribution. And I fully agree with that, because ever since the Electricity Act came into picture, a lot of improvements happened in the distribution sector, in power sector, and especially with the PPP mode, the private participation in the distribution sector really transformed the whole sector. And in fact, we were one of the first companies to get into this, and we're quite proud that when we took over in 2002, dramatic improvements have happened in terms of not only loss reduction from say 55% to now. So that by infusion of capex, infusion of various initiatives, the losses were reduced. Now, having done that over years, now our focus for the last 5-6 years is to improve the customer centricity, because like Mr. Pillai mentioned, as a customer, I'm surrounded by various various agencies or various I'll not call agencies, but various suppliers. Like you take it banking, they're all online. You need not visit the bank. You take mutual funds, you can buy online. You take insurance online. But customer is never ever comfortable where to go. So our endeavor in the distribution sector has been for the last couple of years is to bring ourselves in line with these benchmarks. So I always propagate to teams that we have to be not only a distribution company, but a best in B2C, best benchmark in the B2C space, so that the customer deals with us with the same comfort he deals with a bank, he deals with an airline. Just online, you do everything, all transactions, so faceless transactions. So we have been successful to a great extent. A lot of initiatives we have taken. Maybe I'll just take a few minutes to explain what we did and then how it can be replicated and integrated. First was the billing system. Earlier, you would remember maybe in DVB era, a lot of billing errors used to happen because the meters were all mechanical meters. The meter reader would visit and he would note the reading manually. He might 7 as 8 or 8 or 7, whatever, and the bills will come wrongly. So we introduced the totally downloadable digital meters. And now, of course, we are moving to smart meters, which reduce the billing complaints. Billing complaints today, you will not believe, is hardly anything. It's almost nil. Only the complaints are that, okay, I didn't get the bill. So maybe some stray complaints, or whenever we read some provisional bills due to COVID and all, then people complain that my bill is little provisional and please correct it. But overall, if you see, the billing complaints have reduced. As a result, our collection efficiency has improved. Number two, Customer connect. Today, onboarding the customer is very easy in the distribution sector in our company, both the companies. We have at least 3 to 4 onboarding digital platforms. The first one we developed around 3 years back was the Digital Seva Kendra, Bijli Digi Seva Kendra. It's like Passport Seva Kendra. If somebody wants to visit, he just picks up the phone and expresses intent that I want a connection at this address. This is the name, this is the kilowatt, and this is the domestic category or what category. And we give an appointment 3 days hence. In those 3 days, we finish off our homework of commercial feasibility, technical feasibility. On the third day, if he wants to visit, he visits us, and then on the spot demand note is given. And we are measuring his, when he comes to us, we are measuring his wait time, transaction time, and total time. And so far, we have achieved less than 30 minutes, even 20 minutes also we have achieved. In case he doesn't want to visit, we have an option for doorstep service. We visit his home and get the documents done and on board. We have the online system also. If you don't want to visit, go to online website, put your documents, fill up your form, and you get the connection demand note in hand in a few days' time. Recently, around last month, we have also started the new connection through WhatsApp. In fact, WhatsApp services also we launched around 1.5 years back. So this is WhatsApp is now our virtual service center for any type of service, be it no current complaint, be it payments, be it anything. You can do through WhatsApp. You can play around with it. There's a number, WhatsApp number, which you can use. So we are able to now connect the customer so that we are also one of the amongst those bankers or one of those insurance companies. So electricity company also has started being seen as that type of customer can approach very easily. So now comes the so we are ready. Our billing system is fully automated. Our GIS mapping is, and like Mr. Reggie also mentioned that new connections also, during new connections we capture the GIS coordinates, GPS coordinates, and then we integrate into our GIS system. So we know where all our assets are, where all our customers are. So all these things are totally automated. SCADA system, a huge robust SCADA system is there, which controls the power across Delhi. Now coming to the integration part, like I mentioned, I fully agree. There is lot for water companies or water boards to replicate or leverage the best practices which distribution companies have adopted across the country, or maybe in Delhi specifically, I'll say. And there is no need to reinvent the wheel. A lot of things have been done because customer is same. His expectation is same. For him, water and power and gas or internet it's a basic need. So he wants it very comfortably sitting at his home without visiting any office, any of the utility offices. So I think there's a lot to which can be replicated, good practices of distribution companies by the water companies or even gas companies. Example I'll take, for example, for us also, for as a distribution company, this could be a good what you call platform to reduce our costs. For example, today we print a bill and distribute. Anybody can guess how much it costs. It costs around 10 rupees, somewhere 12 rupees, depending on the distances and all. So if we have a common bill, definitely this cost can be shared between 3 utilities, gas, water, and the electricity companies. So as to the ultimately customer has to save. We have to really serve all of us here for the customers. Ultimately, this benefit will go to customer. So that is one benefit. Second is the call center, like it was mentioned. So like Mr. Pillai mentioned, now 19123 is like for BRPL, the call center it's toll free. Earlier it was chargeable, now it is toll free. Again, benefit to the customer. So we can integrate all these 3 utilities into one call center. Second, very important, especially talking of water. Today, if you see around you, say you wake up in the morning and you will find every house has a booster motor. It's running at 6 o'clock and it keeps running for 2 hours and water is flowing, overflowing. Generally, you would notice around you. So this has a couple of, one is of course water wastage, what you call NRW, non-revenue water. Nobody is bothered. Pump is running, pump has no automation. Not only that, you assume a 1 HP motor, each household, if it is running in the morning, in addition to the DJB large megawatt size motors, what will happen to the power peak, which strikes us in the morning? I think this could be companies can turn on their pumps, the large pumps during off peak, and same way, there could be provision to turn on the needed, the water supply is proper. they can turn on, they should have this automation system to turn on these boosters in a staggered way, maybe in the night. The tank can fill up in the night. We need not start motor boosters in 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock and increase the peak of the distribution company, because that hits us very badly. The peak means the load comes only for say 1 hour or half an hour, but we have to plan our electrical infrastructure for continuous running, and it costs crores of rupees. These such integrations really can help the distribution companies to plan accordingly. Customer centricity, of course, all these physical assets as well as digital assets. Like I mentioned, in physical assets we have, say in our company we have 22 divisions spread across 750 square kilometers. That means there is a BSS office where our teams are sitting, and they are receiving the customers, whosoever wants to come, registering the complaints, sorting out the issues, and customer goes happily. Of course, we record their feedbacks also in every transaction. That is another thing we start in every transaction, and the feedback of customers is recorded. Same way, digital assets. So we can have a sort of counters open for water, for gas, and with proper displays of their products as well. We can also use the digital assets like our WhatsApp or mobile apps, which are quite in the distribution sector. So those also can be used. Like yesterday, my colleague Brijesh mentioned that we can have a common form at the customer onboarding itself, because Delhi is growing. Believe me, in our distribution company, Rajdhani Power, we add every year 1.5 lakh customers, because Delhi is growing vertically. A single house is getting broken, and 5 stories are getting built up. The load of one house was earlier 10 kilowatt, now it is 100 kilowatt. Consumers are getting loaded every year. Demand for the resources is increasing. So ultimately, one day we have to definitely optimize our costs, optimize our resources, so that we are able to serve customer in a most efficient, in a most cheapest fashion, cheapest cost, lowest cost, in a most efficient way. So that could be another advantage. Third is that today we have a big focus on improving our productivity, our field force productivity, accountability, as well as the. So what we have done is all our field force today in distribution company is on mobility, and this mobility brings in accountability as well as precision as well as accuracy, and improves the productivity. Example I'll give you. Earlier, our field staff for meters used to go in the field for changing for installing the new meters. They used to fill up a paper form with carbon paper and 3 copies and all. So now we have done away. We have totally digitized. New connections which are coming for last now 2 years you'll find the guy carrying a mobile with the app and a small printer. So as soon as the work is done, we ask customer to give a happiness code. If he's satisfied, then he gives the happiness code, otherwise no. So once our guy punches the happiness code in the mobile, the printer prints the receipt that yes, meter is installed. So total on mobility, which has improved the productivity and of course the OPEX, operational expenses. The same way, some such synergies can be utilized by other utility services as well. But of course, like Dr. Roy mentioned, this just by saying will not happen. This really needs that because we are all regulatory driven by regulators, and maybe we will do a little bit here and there, sign off some small MOUs with our other utilities, do at our level. But if you really want this at a country level, these synergies to be brought in, which I think are the need of the hour. A lot of policy changes need to be done at the regulatory level. And like electricity companies are driven by a regulator, whereas the water boards are having boards, so there is no regulator there. So all those synergies need to be brought in so that it works on a framework, a structured framework, which should go long way in developing the country's water infrastructure also. Like we say, we have electrical grids, but in water there is nothing like grid. So we can always think of some water grids as well in times to come. So that's all from me, and I think the opportunity is enormous for betterment of the country, for giving a good service to the customer, because customer is the king, he is the god who gives us salaries. So we are all because of the customer only. So that's all. Thank you from my side.
Thank you very much, Vineet. explaining all the new services which you have been offering. Although I am a customer of BRPL, many of them I myself didn't know about it. Many of the new things which you explained. So I will come back to you. The regulatory part we will take care. We have progressive regulators in many states, and also a forum called for electricity, you know about Forum of Regulators, which is a statutory body. So many of the new things we have been able to, ISGF been able to regularly present, including creation of a new tariff slab for EV charging and many other things. Occasionally we make presentation and we get very good response from them. So similarly, I expect the PNGRB will have a chairman very soon. And unlike electricity, every state has separate regulator. For the gas, there is only one regulatory commission, which is at center, Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory Board. So between the electricity company, because their life becomes very easy. Even with the reliable customer data to begin with itself is a big thing for them. So we hope to see some solid progress in Delhi with your leadership, with your Samer El Sayary at the top. Both the companies, we see things changing faster. So the next presentation, we are actually running very late. That is Mr. Sumit Gupta from Asset Plus Consulting. They are specialized in many of the new technologies, artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies. Many of them have been piloted in different utilities. So over to you, Sumit. We should wrap up everything in 10 minutes. So 2:30 we will be starting the next session, before which we should be able to take some Q&A as well. Over to you, Sumit. Sumit, unmute and you can start speaking. Just call him very soon. We can't hear you, Sumit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Audible now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay. Thanks, Reggie, and thanks for this beautiful session, Sikka sir, and in fact, been working very closely with him on the RPL and BYPL also. We all Orange City Water is somewhat where about 10 years back we started on terms of when the Veolia was driving it as how to make the entire process for the Orange City Water to move forward. So it's very a privileged opportunity to be here on this platform to share the activities. And if you look around, I would be pushing and talking around the revenue enhancement, the customer indexing, and the metering, which from the electricity part can be taken up and the gas part can be taken up to the water utilities, because that's where we are working in Delhi with all three of them. You talk about electricity organizations, we're working with them. The water organizations, we're working with them. The gas organizations, working with them. So if you look around in true fashion, it is an integration between different utilities and utilizing them for the benefit of the maximizations of the revenue as well as the customer services which is there. So going forward to the next slide, wherein just a second. So a brief one is that we as an organization work across the sector, and that's what bring as a part of our useful services and deep domain driven experiences, leveraging the technologies of the current age. That's what is our passion, and we derive the solution which is meeting the utilities need, which is in part of the areas of pilferages or the areas of optimizations, areas of revenues, to the areas of customer experiences and enhancements. So the context has already been said in the morning and also in this session by Mr. Roy and Mr. Sikka, that utilities, they are growing, they are increasing, the consumption is increasing, right? But there's a revenue erosion, right? Why? The only cause is that the network which has been put over there, that reliability is very low. There are a lot of pilferages points over there, and the quality of service is going down. So that's the reason where the revenues are being hit, and those revenues, if we have to look around how it has to be seen and be transformed, and itself, and we all know that there are 50% of NRWs which are there in the sector. And barring about, as Mr. Rajiv Pillai mentioned, 18 or 20 years back, the same case was there in the, or when the BSCS took over, Delhi was similarly plaguing with the same kind of problem. But today, after 10 years, 15 years down the line, we have much more single digits where those problems have been solved. We NRW maybe for water, or ATNC for the electricity, or LUAG for the water, for the gas. So we look in the segment of to do work around. Now, when you work on the NRW initiative to look at the approach which we did and the approach which we have done in for Delhi utility, I'll dwell on that case study. The approach was to bring all the data points together, and data points will only come when we have either the little bit of automation over there, or we have those the points of integrations being defined. And those points of integrations, the point of data sets, whether those data is represented in some kind of format, are being looked up, and those different sources, whether meters could be the part of prepaid meters or the part of postpaid meters, and the data coming in there for manual Excel files, the customer records, the complaints which have been there, and the billing informations, unstructured GISs, and the events on the meter, all been put into a decision science platform, and then from there we are trying to look around how the revenue can be enhanced for the utility, and that becomes a very important parallels, because we need not to may penalize sincere customer over the non-sincere one, and that is what is being the task of each municipalities and everyone, because we know the ticket size of water is very small as a part of the bill we pay for electricity or a gas, and then in that case also we should not be making them the unsincere ones to be one who would be actually causing a heaviness on the sincere one picking. And that particular perspective, it is very, very imperative to know that from the various the flow channel, right from the part of the water being stuff, whether from the river or for the canal, or which being pumped to underground water, or be stored on the overhead tanks and being treated at a water treatment plant. From there, my distribution network, and when those distribution network, the whole data points collected, we have those IoT channels to collect the data. We have those different devices being there, but then those data has to be collected, be ratified to be make using sense. So consumption, billing, and paid data to look at where they can be talking about how many metered connections are being revenues are been coming up, and that parlance, the whole structure, the way electricity we have a time use or time of a use tariff based kind of thing, and varying for different consumers, same structure can derive for the water utilities. So this is one done for the Delhi utility, and in this way the entire network structure was being mapped. If you look at the network structure right from the part of where the supply is from, and this supply is leading it to my domestic supply or to my overhead supply storage tank having and going out to the individual houses, to the hub or large industry, to the level of end mile consumers, whether it's a multi-story or row houses, low pressure entities where the supply of the water is needed, or they are the remote hubs. Now these are the node points. These node points has the data to be. Now this data may or may not be there. And 90% chance the data is not there. Why? Because some of the places the information is being there in ticks and bits. And that's where the machine learning becomes very important. Because you are trying to understand the pattern from the one industry into the other part. And you're trying to bring the similarity of the industry together. And the data which has been acquired from that, the first and the foremost thing was to find the stress network. Unless until we know the stress network where it is, we will be able to work and find where is my consumers who are lying in. From the top to figure, on the left side is the part of which of my WTP are being addressing out to which areas and how they have been factored it, what is the load on them, and on the load, how many people are being actually replying and being what category of consumers within the water sector they are. And on the right side top corner, there are the with red they're showing the WTP and the consumers who are connected, and those consumers who are paying in time and not paying in time, the reflection, and that's their consumption is trying to enhance, and not our friend the mornings about 20 KL connection which is they've been given to the each household, they're exceeding it where they comes up. On the left side bottom, if you look at, this is where my each consumers have been broken down in terms of looking at how they have been behaving when they have been metered, when they have been part of billed, when they have been made the payment part. And in whole cycle, what is the delay? given out, the delay which has been there on part of data being collected out from these people, as well as the information being sent to the person. And in that parlance, overall, what you get to know the right hand side corner is the red and the green. The green are the people who is actually giving and aiding me in my supply point and aiding my treasury with the payment in time. And the red ones are those which are actually my treasury, and this becomes important task to know. This only comes once we know stress network. Once we get this stress network, I have customer profiling, and for those customer profiling, I'm looking at who are the revenue contributors and who are the defaulters. Now this data which is there, and this all been done on a part of what Ms. Ahu was mentioning around the common platform. And let me also put that the whole Regis and the ISGF knowledge goes in terms of setting it up for this particular element of what we've done in cut across the entire 3 channels. Then once we have identified the consumers who are there, then looking at those consumers on their events, whether they have been given the part of the events in coming up, or there are meter complaints and conditions, what repair history has been done that per network, and who are the people. We are pinning down and finding out on the stress network who are the consumers who are actually been the part of the revenue or network part of your revenue leakage and your revenue which has been unaccounted for. So when you're trying to focus from the high level to the next level down, you're drilling it down to the element of bringing the outcome which is more and more precise and more accurate. And then you go down to the next level where we went on to understand from these consumers their past consumption patterns, their past historical water level of bill payment on their defaulters prediction. So next cycle, were they their bucket ticket size very small, but then, and especially around water, the commercial customers and industrial consumers, those are much more important one to look at the domestic part, because the ticket size are there small. But the commercial consumers are not many, and for them, what would be their size of the water they consume, what will be their amount which is lying in the defaulter prediction. If I'm able to get in advance, this is actually helping each consumer wise. If I'm able to do that, I'm looking on where those consumers are lying in and how they will try to dent my if they are. So these all 4 buckets which you're seeing in the pie chart are looking at part of my from the due date where these customers will be lying in terms of my bucket and how I have to put my the sales outstanding which I've given the water I will recollecting from them. Now, this is the part of element which helps in terms of getting the revenue enhanced and help in part of looking visibility on the consumer side and when you're adding the services. The next part of it, which was mentioned by Mr. Roy, that if we're able to do a customer indexing and customers thing, this is what we did for electricity utility, we are doing it for a gas utility in Delhi, and we're doing it for water. The indexing is over there because the same house is getting the gas and water and the power part of it. What about this particular customers? In my water record, the customer maintain I am in front of a temple. In my electricity record, it says behind the school, and my gas record it says on the 2nd floor. In these 3 conditions, the customer is different places. How I have to look around ratifying this? The whole approach is again built on a part of the advanced technologies, which is about AI principles, where you are importing it and looking in the addresses and bringing down the municipality level of defining their address corrections and how the address have been there. And then the benefit of address can be utilized for all 3 utilities once they've been done, because you're trying to align with them pin code, locality. I mean, in Delhi we have khasaras and thing, and then your house number and flat number, all those in front of the village, in front of the temple, behind the school, all those gone, because now you have a ratified address which can look like, which was something like this, which was almost jumbled up. It is very much clear coming around where in my house number and customer number. So this is where now you have a geo that, and that geo coordinate can be helped in terms of servicing the consumer, whether it's electricity, gas, or water, and helping them out. So one way we leverage out for all the 3 part of it. This is what being carried out for the element of electricity sector. And now this is another one which Raji also mentioned. How can we leverage a common platform for metering, billing, and payment for all 3? And this is what being done. I just try to run a video, and this has been utilized for gas electric sector. This has been utilized for the part of the water thing, and the piloting is being done. I just try to run the video to show the beauty of AI-driven metering part of it. The photo images have been taken from the almost around 20 years people have been taking the photos. But now the time has come to convert them into information there itself. So this is where some gas power this is artificial enabled consumer log-in.
Sumit, we need to close because 2 o'clock. Yeah, so 2 o'clock something else was to start, which we postponed to 2:30. So this is posted on your booth, so people can please go to Asset Plus booth in the exhibition place and please see that. So with this, with this, I'd like to express a very sincere thank to all the participants, all the speakers, session chair, moderator, everybody, and we like to continue this as a not as a once in a year conference topic, but a regular interaction and cooperation to take this agenda to so that ultimately it is implemented in most of the big cities, at least before going to rural areas. So regulatory problems we will solve. We will be talking to regulators in forward-looking states. We'll be talking to PNGRB, and we will also talk to as far as Mr. Roy for Nagpur. I will personally talk to MSCDCL Managing Director and try to get a your area is serviced by MSCDCL, and we will
MSCDCL.
Yeah, we will try to get some collaboration started very soon.
If you require any support, a discussion, I have to be taken in part. I am ready to do that.
Yeah, and we will have full support from MERC. MERC has very good people at the top, both the chairman and the members. So we will be we are confident that we will get good support. Same with the electricity regulator in Delhi, in UP, in Karnataka, a couple of states we work, Haryana, we work very closely, and the utilities are also in these places. They are ISGF members. We will take this forward. Thank you very much. Look forward to meeting you all in our next event.